Allah benefit the reciter and all the listeners. Amen. Without wasting time, I will give the mic to my Sheikh, whether it's Yusuf, to speak more on the importance of the fifth episodes of the Hijab. وليتفضل مشكور يا شيخ.
Last shake. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله بنعمته تتم الصالحات والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده سيدنا محمد مجتبى صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله الطاهرين وعلى كل من اهتدى. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first without beginning, and Allah is the last without an end. Allah is the sole creator of the heavens and the heart. بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. Unto Allah alone, the affairs of the heavens and the heart is not shared, it's not being rotated, it's not situational, it's not temporary. Absolutely everything lies with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Allah told us in Quran and Kareem. Allah prides His creatures. Allah said, هذا خلق الله فأروني ماذا خلق الذين من دونه. What I've created are very numerous. For those that can see, for those that can reflect. Allah says, هذا خلق الله. These are my creatures. Look at the heavens. Look at the land. Look at the big mountains. There are so many great things that Allah has created for us to even wonder over. One of our brother here is doing his masters in oceanography. He now told me that there is a fact that even the world scientific agents, the biggest of them have actually confirmed that what we've actually discovered in water bodies of the world alone is even less than 25% of the resources therein. As in, when you look at the water bodies of the world, he said they confirm that what we know about it is even less than 25%. So that means that we all went in the dark, despite the fact that we are in the advanced age. So when Allah says, "Other holy law, these verses have very deep import for those that can actually reflect very well about what about the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of such words of Allah is what we're going to be looking at today, inshallah. That is the understanding of the fact that we are in a special period of time. May Allah's peace and blessing be upon the soul of the noble Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The reason is very simple. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam a very special Ummah. The Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been given a very lofty status among all the among all the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we need to understand that the longevity of life that the prior generations enjoyed, we are not opportune to enjoy it any longer. Allah told us in Surah Al-Fajr, and let me say this, every one of us should take time to read Surah Al-Fajr, the meaning of it. If Allah blesses you, you are very inquisitive about knowledge, please try to read the exegesis, the tafsir. The closer you are to the original text, the more you will understand. But if you cannot read the original classical text, you can read the translated ones. You will learn so many things about it. Because every day we wake up was Fajr. Why will Allah say with Fajr, wal Layali Ashri in Quran chapter 89? There are just 30 verses in that surah. I did test for my students yesterday in the class. I asked them, all of you, we asked them all of them to come and read Surah Al-Fajr. And the best person with the best citation will have a prize. And they were asking, why Surah Al-Fajr today? And we told them that because Surah Al-Fajr is that chapter that describes why this period, these first 10 days of Zulhijjah are very, very important. We need to know. And it is well emphasized in all authentic texts in Islam. So for you to have a very good understanding, because I have just 15 minutes, I want to encourage us as a forward, each and every one of us when we get a copy of the Quran, read Surah Al-Fajr. Don't just read the meaning alone. Because at times some of those translations may not give you deep import. Read the notes, the footnote, the explanations, and try to ruminate about it. Allah swore by Al-Fajr, wal-Fajr, wal-Layali Ashrin, wal-Shafri, wal-Watr, wal-Layli Ida Yasir. Now, I'll just mention some of those things that probably will be hearing about these 10 days of the Hijjah, but I'll try to take some short time to go deeper in some other thematic focus or thematic areas that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala touch in Surah Al-Fajr. Because it seems to be like a complete summary of what we are dealing with in our modern day civilization. Swearing with the early Fajr means that the dawn, when it breaks like it does every day, tells us the importance of what? Of our early hours of the day. Allah will not swear with anything that is not of significance. I mean, that's very sure. Allah tells us in another verse of the Quran, Allahu la ilaha illa hu. وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حَدِيثًا. There is no other person whose word can be so sure that 100% it will never change. You won't see something like changing along the line other than the word of Allah. Because you can't force Allah to talk. If you cannot force me to talk, you cannot force me to act. So, I mean, you can't force me to say what I will not have to retract. So Allah's message is not something that can be retracted after some time. In fact, Allah says, "Fadamdama alayhima kuhumbi tabihi wala yakofu ukubaha." Allah says, I fear no consequences when I act. I fear no what? Consequences when I act. You know, one of our scholars used to make a joke. He says, if you go and beat the daughter or the son of brigade commander in front of barrack. Now, if your mind back home to Nigeria, I'm sorry for those that don't have that experience. Imagine somebody beating the son or the daughter of a brigade commander in front of a barrack. What will happen to him? Some of our brothers are laughing already. We will visit Patagan, right? And we see the most, dehumanizing experience. Allah said when he destroyed the people of what? The people of Thamud. He fear no consequence. Fadamdama alayhi rabbuhum bitanbihi fasawaha wala yakhafu. But those that kill the what? The camel of Prophet Salih. Allah says, I fear no what? Consequences. The point I want to bring out there is that Allah does not act out of pressure. So when Allah swear with anything, please, it behoves that we pay attention to it. And one of those that Allah swore with are these special 10 days. To cut the long story short, a lot of explanation has been done about which is better, the last 10 days of Ramadan or the what, the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. There's a very large consensus about scholars of old and contemporary scholars, that these first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, they are even far better than the what? Than the 10 days of what? Than the 10 days of Ramadan. In fact, the closest you see to it is that some said the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah is better, while the last 10 nights of Ramadan is better than the last 10 nights of Dhul Hijjah. But there is no ikhtilaf, there is nothing like no, I is no. And I will tell you the reason why. These first 10 days of Zulhijjah is a very special period to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, let's put back our mind. When Allah wants to create us, when we're about to be created, the angels kicked. The angels what? They kicked. قالوا أتجعل فيها ما يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء. The initial position of Allah is that in nature, you fil ardi khalifa. I want to create vigilant on the surface of the heart. Now, if you have a franchise, if you're a franchisee holder of maybe McDonald's or Burger King or whatsoever, if you have ever taken a franchise before, you know you are what? You are subjected to some rules, operational guidelines, and routines of parent companies. And also, you cannot just do things anyhow you like. Because one of the key things you want to maintain in franchise is that uniformity, standards, right? Because this chicken this is or this McDonald's is owned by so company. I mean, they have snatched the real owner away from you. You don't know the real owner, but you see the bigger brand. But that bigger brand, there is a collective word or uniform monitoring, so that there is no variation in service quality. Now, when Allah declare us as viceroys in nature, you look like the Khalifa. That means that we are not here just to float on earth. The greatest mistake anybody can do on earth is that to feel that above my life to live all alone. You don't even have a decision on the day you were born. You don't have a decision on the choice of your gender, whether you're a male or you're a female. You don't even have a choice on your racial inclination, whether you be white, Caucasoid, Mongoloid, whatever it may be. You don't even have a choice in the what? In the formation of your height, your genetic component. You don't even have a choice. There are several things you don't even have vision about. So how do you not think you have vision all about your life alone? It is a clear insincerity. So Allah used the word Khalifa for us, and the angels kid. But when it is in these 10 days of Hijjah, from the beginning till the day of Arafah, Allah will showcase us to the angels. Especially on the day of Arafah, Allah will ask them, well, you asked me not to create them. The angel said, kind of, I mean, these are very special people. They seem to have done something extraordinary from what we were thinking before. And do you know what it means? On these days, you showcase a winning scenario to Allah, even though Allah is always a winner. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask the angels, you ask me not to create them. You ask me not to do this. But look at these people. Here they are, their brothers, saying, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, inna alhamda wa ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. When you see the multitude of people gathered on Mount Arafah, you ask yourself, is there any other religion that has this honor, the largest human congregation on earth in our modern time, doing the same thing in uniformity with the same sole intent of worshiping their Lord in monotheistic manner is only seen in Islam. So these are days of pride to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for several other reasons, Rasulullah told us that we must exalt these days. We must appreciate the honor and the value that Allah has placed in these days. And President Paul just do so many good things about it. First and foremost is, and this a lot of people have forgotten, we do that at car. And it's important we know that we chant this at car at as often as possible. For the male, we can say it loud. For the female folks, it's encouraged to say it gently. But if you are probably you're all alone, to say it a bit louder. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Walillahi ilham. There's several expansion about the words of this Askar, but I don't want to go into that now. But it's as short as that. If you look at everything, you do takbir, you do tahleel, you have found that Allah is the only one that is what? That is great. You have found that there is none worthy of worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you look at everything together, it still forms part of the what? Part of the reason why Allah has created us, and it still forms a very great trust to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his decision. Why the angels will have to take back their words. Call what angel fear, more you fear demand. What other things can we do in these days of Ramadan, in these special days of the Hijjah? Try to fast as much as you can. Try to fast as much as you can. Exert yourself, push yourself. You know, the more you do, the more the reward you get. But the fasting in it is not compulsory. If you don't fight, it doesn't make you less a lesser Muslim. But when you do some of these things, it makes you closer to what? To the nur, to the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you cannot do any one of them, please don't afford to miss the fast of what? Of Yom Arafah. It is very, very important. For those that are not in Hajj, it is encouraged for you to fast. In fact, those that are in Hajj, it is mamnun. It's not even allowed for them. They are not allowed to fast on that day because it's always a very, very, very continuous day for them. And out of the mercy of Allah, yuridullahu bikum al-yusra wa la yuridu bikum al-usra. Allah does not want anything that will create difficulty for us. Now, that is the first part of what? Of the message of Surah Al-Fajr. Let us try to do a deep dive analysis ourselves. Read more about it, reflect about it. Allah says, "Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafi al-layli wan nahari la'ayatin li ulil albab." Allah describes yourself of people as ulul albab. And we must all try as much as possible to learn to read the message of Allah and reflect and read about it, put it in context, put it in a real modern scenario. Ask yourself, what exactly is the real message that we are being passed to, inshallah? Now, the other part of Surah Al-Fajr I will just touch briefly is that Allah talked about how He has destroyed civilization before us. The Samud, the people of Had, and people of Fir'aun. That tells us that no matter how big you are in life, no matter how great that civilization could be on earth, there is nothing that is above the power of Allah. The third thing Allah talked about, Allah says, وَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانَ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ. Allah used the word ibtala. When it gives people abundance of wealth, abundance of goodness, children, very good family. But Allah used the word ibtala. That means Allah says, when we test people by giving them so many things, فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِ. They say, oh, my Lord has been so nice with me. Allah now use the other one. That when we come with affliction, trials, and tribulation, for Yakul Rabbi Ahanani, Allah has come, has shown me this thing and this and that. But the tafsir I want to explain there is that scholar says that Allah gives you something, the wealth, children, whatever we do tafahul, as in we try to show up with it. Allah, they say these are not parameters to show the what, the kindness of Allah or to show the what, the rahmah of Allah. That the defining factor that shows the rahmah of Allah on you is ta'atullah. How good are you in following the dictates of Allah? Because Allah blesses those who follow Him on earth and those who do not follow Him on earth. If that is not the case, probably if you look at the four bridge you ask yourself, what is Allah is our Razak. So get it right. Allah shares His mercy, His rahmah to those that believe and to those that do not believe. But the greatest factor is in following the dictate of Allah. And remember that tradition of the Holy Prophet, man you read Allah will be inquiring, you fucking 15. When Allah loves a particular set of people, Allah gives them the understanding of religion. Till the end that Allah now says that what for your food for them to hayati. On the day of judgment, some people regret. They will lay word to themselves that, oh, what have they done all their life on the surface of the earth? And everything in that message gives us a summary that we can really reflect about. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us one of those that will be able to appreciate the message of Surah Al-Fatih. May Allah make us one of those that will get the best of all reward in these 10 days to the Eid. Do good, give harm to the poor. Remember old family members that you've not been able to reach out to. Similar to Russian is very important, especially for the orphans, the less privileged, those that are disadvantaged. When it shows the Maslow theory of what needs, um, uh, the capitalist system focus on what, on a particular part of that what, of that triangle, but of that pyramid. Thank you. But what Islam tells us is that those that are the base of the pyramid, Rasul Islam tells us that we must pay attention to them. وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون السلام عليكم.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you. You can't get tired listening to brother like this. I've known him since college days, and Allah has really favored him. May Allah continue to increase His blessings on you. Thank you so much for taking time. I know we had a budget 1 hour, but as Allah will have it, we were able to utilize 15, 16 minutes. May Allah make it beneficial to us. I mean, without wasting time, okay. So, okay. So, from the authority, we can accommodate one or two questions. So, if you have question on what our brother has presented, please can you signify so that we can take questions. Question, no question. Okay, Alhamdulillah, there is no question. But in summary, please let's give our best. That's the summary. The first thing is let's give our best to Allah because these are the best days. So we have to give our best. May Allah make it beneficial to us. Amen. Um, so we are starting on the second segment of the program today. And inshallah, I want to introduce our guest speaker for today. The topic is bridging communication gap between the youth and adults in the community. This is a very, very important topic, and I thank the organizers for bringing this up for discussion. Our guest speaker today is Brother Hussein Algeri. He obtained his master's in public health from Texas A&M Health Science Center School of Public Health and holds a Bachelor of Science in Bio-Environmental Science from the College of Agriculture and Life Science from the same university, Texas A&M University. Brother Hussein is currently the event chair at the Brand Islamic Center, in which he organizes weekly events to cater for specific audiences and involve with youth to organize events to keep the youth engaged. He has served as the president of the MSA at Texas A&M University and has been involved with the youth since then. Allah Akbar, mashallah. Join me to welcome Brother Hussein to the high table. May Allah bless you. Thanks for honoring our invitation. So, then we'll be talking about the topic bridging communication gap between the youth and the adults in the community. Please let's listen so that we can have questions. This is a very important topic, and I'm sure that it's going to do justice to it. So, after this, we'll have questions, inshallah. May Allah make it easy. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakumullah khair for having me here. It's very an honor to be here. I always love whenever I come to Masjid-ul. I came here for Iftar a couple of times and I loved being here. And I tell everyone, I'm like, let's go to Masjid-ul. That's where the vibes are. I was like, the community in Brandon, like I come from Brandon, and I was like, it's the same boring things every single day. But when I come here, it's very fun to be here because you meet people and you get warm welcome, mashallah. And I love coming here all the time, just like the brother mentioned. Jazakallah khair. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Today's topic is bridging the gap between the elders and the youngsters. This is this is something that requires tons of study. It's not something that we're gonna master over one talk or something that 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 we'll just get over. This is something that will be continuous as the generation grows gap between the two. And this is something that I share because I grew up in this country, and my parents came from overseas. So when my parents first came here, and the way I grew up here, there is that gap in which over time what happens is that there's a communication gap. Sometimes we youngsters think we know it all, right? We tell our parents, hey, we're the ones that are showing them how to use the phone. We are the one that is filling their applications for them. We're the one that is doing all this. And mashallah, the youth are full of energy. But the elders are full of wisdom. And this is sometimes things that we forget. And the problem comes when there is not a proper communication between the two groups. When there's no communication, the most important thing as a human being for us is relationships. And when that relationship doesn't exist and there's not a proper communication, there'll be a problem. That is in every relationship. That it is not. It doesn't matter whether it's between the elders and the youngsters, whether it is between a husband and a wife, whether it is even between friends. If there is not a proper communication, then there will always be issues. So the first thing to do to bridge the gap is to fix the communication between these two groups. And the way to do that is to put ourselves in their shoes. The elders need to put themselves into the youngsters' shoes, and the youngsters need to put themselves in the elders' shoes. And that is very hard to do. If you're an elder person and all the youngsters want to talk about social media, how are you going to put yourself in their shoes? That's a very important question to ask. And subhanAllah, we are actually in the process at Brandon looking for an imam. We're trying to hire an imam. And one of the questions that is asked to the imam is, how would you communicate with the youth? How would you communicate with the youth? You know, one of the imam that we're looking to hire, he was saying, uh, I was a youth director. I did this, I did this, I did that. But specifically, the masjid board was asking, how would you connect with them in social media? The imam was like, I don't have social media. So they were like, okay, so how do you connect with them? So now it has become connecting with the youth through social media because now the youth are always on their phone and they're on Instagram, TikTok, and all these places. And mashallah, there are like some great shuyukh that are there, Mufti Menk and a few other people are on TikTok and Instagram. But uh, it's very important for the elders to kind of do that because someone actually asked Mufti Menk and told him, "Why are you wasting your time in TikTok?" He was like, brother, if we're gonna reach the youth through TikTok, even if 5 minutes or one of my videos shows up and that is something that might change their life, then it was all worth it. We have this thinking that social media is bad, and it is. A lot of aspect of social media is bad. It's a waste of time, and but there's two things. There's people that learn Islam through social media. Some people accepted Islam through social media. There we have a lot of reverts, mashallah, that come in, and sometimes we ask them stories about how did you come into Islam. They said, I was watching this video, and then, which led me to this other video, which led me to this other video, and eventually I accepted Islam. So, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created good and bad in everything. So we just have to kind of pick and choose, and to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, inshallah. And as far as the elders are concerned, we have, whenever you take a look at masjid boards, I don't know how things are here, but whenever I see the masjid boards across Brand Lane and a few other masajid, you have the elders that are in management, and the youngsters are usually not present there. And whenever I ask the youngsters why you're not there, it's like, the uncles don't let us do anything. The uncles are the ones doing everything, you know. And not just with the youth, it's even with the sisters. We have very few sisters there also. So they tell us that the uncles are the one that is leading everything. They don't want to give us a chance. But when we ask the uncles, hey, why you don't give the youth a chance? They say, hey, we can't trust them. They're not reliable. You know, they're not reliable. They show up late. They're not serious. They're joking too much. They're doing this. They're doing that. So there is the lack of trust from the elders when it comes to the youth. We must remember the Prophet ﷺ. When when head of armies were sent, there was a Sahabi that was 17 years old. That was the head of the army that was sent. And I know some people, when you bring this up to the elders, they might be like, man, you can't compare the two groups back then. Think people are mature now, people are immature. I understand. But at the end of the day, it's all about giving the youth a chance, and for the youth to take that the wisdom of the elders and to apply in their life. I want to tell all the youth that, trust me, your parents know it all. You think you might know it all, and I'm looking at the youth, I'm looking at myself too. And I tell, right now, Alhamdulillah, I recently became a parent, and whenever I see my child, I'm like, man, like, my child is growing up, and there was a time in which I was rebellious with my parents. How would I deal with this thing in the future? And when my child is screaming and crying, I'm like, man, I have few years of experience more than this child. How come this child is trying to rule me now? But this is what's gonna happen, and this is where we need to not only trust our youth, but the youth need to trust the wisdom of the elders. And there needs to be a communication between the two, of each of them putting in each other's shoes, and that will be the way for us to kind of change the generations to come. And subhanallah, things are only going to get worse before it gets better. And it's the reality right now. Subhanallah, we have a lot of youth that don't even show up to the masjid. So to the people that are here today, may Allah reward you guys, may Allah bless you guys, and may Allah continue guys to come to the masjid. Because so many people, when they're not in the masjid, they're out doing other things. And back in the day, few years ago, when you walk into a few masajid and you see only the elders and the youngsters are not there, and you ask them why the youngsters are not coming, you ask them, they're like, masjid is boring. Masjid is boring. And if I go to the masjid, I'm gonna be judged, man. Like, I had this friend of mine. He used to have a long hair, and every time he would walk to the masjid, this is more than 10 years ago, the uncles would tell him, hey, what's wrong with you? Why you dressed like this? Didn't your parents raise you well? This is the sort of questions he gets asked, and he was like, "Hey man, how do you expect me to come to the masjid when the uncles are asking this sort of questions?" And it's very hard for me to kind of tell him that nowadays, subhanallah, masajids have built facilities. So I'm guessing there's a playground here, there's sports facility. That this is what kind of brings in the youth, and it's sad, but if we have to use this tactic to bring them in, let it be it, inshallah. And the only thing I want to tell the youth is that just make sure that sometimes, the uncles might tell you things, the aunties might tell you something, but you must be respectful to them. Respect has to be there because once you respect them, then they will learn to trust you. And this starts at home. It doesn't just start in the masjid. It starts at home. Being respectful to our parents, to our elders, treating them well, you know. And the du'as that they'll make for you, if you're very disrespectful to parents, there is a saying in Arabic that says, Kama tudinu tudan, what goes around comes around. So if you don't treat your parents well, if you're disrespectful to them, if you think you know it all, guess what? Whenever you become a parent, what's going to happen to you? The same thing is going to happen. So there has to be a form of respect that we have for our elders, and our elders will soon learn to kind of share their wisdom and share that with us. And I know that this topic will be something that we need to talk about. Many research is needed, even like we need to do some PhD in this topic on how to fix this, because this thing is going to continue, and as the generation grows gap between the two, is going to keep going on. You know that there is few communities what they do is usually the elders that are in a nursing facility or in nursing homes, they would usually take the youth and go to those facilities and play bingo with the elders and play a few other games with them. And when you see them smiling and playing with each other, you're just like, Subhanallah, like one game was able to bring the two together. And we need to utilize and organize events like this, not just for us to kind of just talk about it. It's very important for us to talk about it, but we need to do events that bridges the gap between the two groups. Most of the time, we're doing events for the youth, or we're doing events for the elders. But very few times you would see the youth and the elders are together in the event, unless that there's food. When you bring food, everybody's there. It doesn't matter whether it's elders or youngsters. So we need to do events that will bridge the gap between the two, whether it is a game or whether it is a sport or anything that we can do, inshallah, that kind of brings them together. But to my youth, again, I'm gonna say, please be respectful to the elders. Just because you know something they don't know, it doesn't mean you have to look at them in any negative way. You have to be the person that is kind of there for them, to help them, to stand up for them. And so, inshallah ta'ala, whenever you grow old, your youth will be there for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will repeat the cycle again. So we must remember that and keep that in our mind. The other thing I want to say is that this relationship has to be with understanding and patience. This is not going to happen overnight. The elders need to be patient with the youth that the youth don't have that much experience. They're learning things. And the youngsters need to be patient with the elders, just like the way they were patient, like our parents, they were patient with us when we were young kids. We would, there was this story I was reading one time. There was an elderly man with his son, and his son kept asking him, "My son, what is that on the tree?" And the son is like, "It's a banana, or it's a fruit, whatever it was." And then the father asked him again, "My son, what is this?" He's like, "Dad, I already told you, it's a banana." He asked him for a third time. He kept doing it until maybe he asked 4 or 5 times. And then after that, the son was totally, like, "Dad, it's a banana. Come on, why you keep asking me?" And then he told them, he was like, "Listen, when you were young, you used to ask me what this was, and I would tell you in a loving manner multiple times, again and again." And he used to be like, "Dad, what is that?" He's like, "My son, this is a banana." And in a nice, sweet manner, as a child keeps asking questions, "What is this? What is that? What is this?" The parent was very patient with the child. And it's very hard to put ourselves in our parents' shoes. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, رَبِّ اغْفِرْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. Oh Allah, be kind to them the same way that they showed me mercy when I was young. And it's very, very difficult for a child to put themselves in the parents' shoes, but trust me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us 70 times more than our mother loves us. Any of us can testify that whenever we think about a person who loves you the most, everyone thinks about their mother.
but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us 70 times more. And no relationship, if our relationship is well with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then our relationship with others need to also be well. The reason why I say that is because sometimes we think that, you know what, only Allah can judge me. Only Allah can judge me. And people utilize that, and whenever the youth do something wrong and the elders are trying to give them advice, it's like, brother, don't do this. It's like some people are very rude to say, hey, look, only Allah can judge me. You know, we should all be fearful when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge us. Umar radiallahu anhu said, judge yourself before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judges you. So when people are there to kind of help you and point out things that you did wrong, you as a youth have to kind of utilize that and make sure that you follow the advice that people are giving you. The elders are not The elders are people with wisdom and people who have experience that walk the same shoes as you did. And even with all the technology and all the gap that there's differences, they were once upon a time a youth. So we need to take their advice and we need to be fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we need to not tell people only Allah can judge me. Wallahi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. But we need to be careful when we say things like this. You know, some people say these things with an honor, like, hey, you know, I can do whatever I want. Only Allah can judge me, as if they have a green card or green pass for them to do all the wrong things in the world. And your parents will only give you advice because they love you. You know, some I know some people, they might judge you, they might say things to you, but if it's your parents and if it's the elders, they're only telling you what to do because they love you and they care about you. So we must keep that in mind. And we must remember that bridging this gap starts at home. It does not start at the masjid. The masjid is the end result. So if your relationship is not well with your parents, the youth, I would work on fixing that. I would talk to my parents. I would be respectful to my parents. And I know sometimes, you know, the relationship will be up and down, and that's okay. But for you to, if someone disrespected you, an elder disrespects you, and for you to be just like, hey, we need to cut this, we need to cut the bridge. That's it. We're not gonna communicate with them. I'm not gonna talk to this person no more. Someone disrespects you in the masjid. I'm not gonna come to the masjid no more. That's immaturity. That's not the way it should be. You know, things happen. Move on. Forgive and move on. And your relationship with your parents, if it's not the way it's supposed to be, then how do you expect your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be well? It's not gonna happen. Fix your relationship. You know, the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the wrath of the parent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَن لا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained that you worship none other than Him, and for you to be kind to your parents. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say obey your parents in every matter. Allah says be kind to them. And this is something that we forget all the time. We think that, you know, we must obey our parents unconditionally. And you know, there were Sahabas back during the Prophet ﷺ's time in which the parents were actually telling them, you know, disbelieve in this new religion and believe in the religion of your forefathers. You know, the disbelieve in this new religion and believe in the religion of your forefathers. And the Prophet ﷺ has told the companions to be kind to your parents. We have to be kind to our parents. This is when it comes to obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When people are choosing Islam over the religion of their forefathers, they were told to be kind to their parents, which is the most important matter in this world. So when it comes to anything else, we must remember that if we disagree something with our parents, we don't have to be disrespectful to them about it. It's not like, hey mom, hey dad, I know it all, you don't know anything. You don't have to say it like that. You just have to tell them, hey, listen, mom and dad, you know, with all the respect, I love you guys. I know where this is coming from, but I think, you know, I want to do this. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah. So, thank you, sister. So we have to be very, very, very kind to them. And sometimes, whenever we think of kindness, we don't know how to be kind because the world has been very bad. Sometimes that when it comes to kindness, we don't know what kindness is. So we have to kind of start with baby steps. What I mean by baby steps is that it starts with a smile. When was the last time you smiled at your parents? When was the last time you smiled at your parents? This is something that you have to ask yourself. When was the last time I smiled at my parents? I'm not talking about saying anything. Just starting with a smile. You know, Subhanallah, smiling is a sunnah. We hear that all the time. That smiling is a sunnah. You know, Even a small baby that doesn't know how to talk, if you smile at that baby, what will that baby do? They'll smile back at you. So this is a start to every relationship. A baby that you don't know, the first thing you will do is smile at them. The baby will smile back at you. So start with baby steps, smiling at your parents, smiling at the elders, just smiling and you know maybe sometime if the relationship has not been good for a long time, the parent or the elder might be like, "Man, why is this person smiling at me?" Right? They might say that, but I promise you, they'll have no other choice but to smile back at you. They'll smile back at you because this is just reciprocate. When someone smiles, the other person smiles back at you. So start by smiling at them, and then after that smile continues, start with Assalamu alaikum, how are you? So whenever you see your parent every single day, if your parents are still around, may Allah give them a long age, you come and you say with a smile, Assalamu alaikum, how are you? You know, and I know I sound like I'm talking about some basic stuff that some most of you, I know you guys already do these things. But trust me, you'll be surprised at the people that don't do any of this. They just I've seen people, subhanallah, they're high school, college students, they would just wake up, they would just make their food and they'll just leave. And their parents is there, they don't say nothing to them. And it's sad that the person who raised you and brought you to where you are today, you treating them like this because, you know, subhanallah, Allah gave you few technology, few knowledge here and there, and now you think you know it all. In fact, there's an ayah in the Quran, it's known as the ayah of the uff, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولا تقل لهما أف. We are commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to not even say uff to our parents. Uff, some scholars say, what is uff? Uff is like literally the most slightest, very slightest annoyingness that you even feel in your heart. Allah is telling us to not verbalize it. Sometimes it's okay to be annoyed with parents, with elders, it's fine. But when you verbalize and you're like, oof, like, why? Like, when you say stuff like this, you don't recognize how much it hurts them. Because they're just like, man, I stayed up sleepless nights for this person. I stayed up sleepless nights just so this person can tell me this and that. And some of the youth might be like, man, stop being emotional about it, man. It's not that serious. But it is serious. Because if Allah mentions something in the Quran, you know it's very serious. And so, like I said, start with a smile and then build it up to Assalamu alaikum, how are you? And then say, how's your day? And subhanAllah, your parents love it whenever we're stressed about something for the youth, we tend to go to our friends. Our friends are the ones that are going to help us out in this. Our friends are the ones that are going to give us the advice. Our friends are the advisors. Habibi, your friends don't know anything. It's sad, but your friends know very few things. When was the last time you asked your parents for an advice? When was the last time you went to your parent and you were like, Mom and Dad, I'm confused about this. Can you give me advice on this? Trust me. I was listening to a sheikh, and the sheikh was saying, even if you know the answer to it, you going to your dad and you asking him for advice, it just builds your dad. Like your dad will just become so happy to the point where you raise them up so high that your dad will feel like he owns the world. If you just go to your dad and you be like, Dad, I need advice. Simple. It doesn't take much. You don't have to listen to what he's saying. You just go into your dad and you say, Dad, I need advice. And I know the topic today is bridging the gap between the elders and the youngsters, but the reason why I talk about um, children and parents is because that is the first relationship to bridging the gap between the two groups. If that relationship is not well, how do we expect relationship with others from outside to be well? So it's very important for us to bridge the gap at home, and tarbiyah starts at home. Many of us, we have, I've seen so many times in the masjid that parents will bring their kids and they're like, can you give them tarbiyah? They're being very disrespectful to me at home. And I'm like, how are we supposed to do tarbiyah in a 30-minute to 1 hour program of the whole week? How are we gonna do tarbiyah when the kid is literally at home with you the whole time? Tarbiyah does not start in the masjid. Tarbiyah starts at home. And to the parents that are here, I know that sometimes our schedule is so busy. We're working the whole day. By the time we come home, we're so tired, we're exhausted, we just want to eat and sleep. But I just want to tell them that the quality time is needed between the parent and the child. The parents need to spend time with their child. The parents need to ask their child, how's your day? What did you do in school? What did you learn? Or just conversation that will just generate something. You know, eating together, eating together is very important. Even one meal that you all sit as a family is very important for you to talk about these things. Unfortunately, we're living at the day and age where everybody eats separately. And then we ask the questions, okay, why are there issues in the house? Everybody's eating separately, everybody's doing their own thing. That as a family, the only thing that you share is maybe your name or the space that you're living. And it's sad, but it's true. This is what's happening right now. People don't talk to each other in the house. If you do, subhanAllah, you're very lucky and continue it. But if you don't, this is the time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us social beings. And there was a study that has been done that the elders, whenever we neglect them and we leave them and they end up alone in a nursing facility or anything, it increases their chances of developing Alzheimer's just by them being alone, just by them not socializing with people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us social beings. We're supposed to socialize with people. We're supposed to talk with people. This is what insan is. To recognize this relationship. Most of the time when we're alone, we're bored. We're bored. But when our friend shows up or when another person shows up, all of a sudden we're having fun because we're talking to them, you know. And sometimes, whenever you're going through issues, whether it's health issues or any crisis, you know, they say socialize with people. If you go to a therapist, they'll tell you if you're going through an issue, you know, come to the therapist or go to a person and just talk about your problem. Not not that the person will even fix the issue, just by you talking about your problem, you're gonna feel better. You're like, man, like a person understands what I'm going through. I thought I was carrying this whole burden by myself this whole time. But you just socializing and talking about it, you feel better. How many times have you had problems in your life and you just went to somebody and you spoke to them about it and you felt better? But that person didn't even help you yet. That person didn't even tell you what to do. Just by you just like ranting or about your issue, you all of a sudden feel better. So this is the thing, and this is what a family is. The family starts with communicating with one another to ensuring that you know you as a son or a daughter or you as a parent, you care about that person. So when you ask about them, they actually feel a sense of belonging to the house and the family. They feel like, hey man, this person actually cares about me. But if we're not talking to each other because, man, you know what, I'm too busy, or you know, I need to do this, I need to do that. I'm working already for this child the whole day. I'm working for my wife already the whole day. You know, that's not enough. You know, I know some people, subhanAllah, they make so much money. Like I'm talking about millions, but they don't have time to sit down with their family. And then when their family asks them, "Hey, dad, why are you working so much?" The dad is like, "I'm working for you." He's like, "But dad, all I want is your company. I don't want your money. Like, take this money back. Like, I don't care for it. What I need is quality time for you." I saw this somewhere, that there was a child that went to his father. He's like, "Dad, how much do you get paid per hour?" So the father was like, "Son, why are you asking that?" He's like, "No, no, I'm asking how much you get paid an hour." The father mentioned the amount. So the son was like, "Here is the money I've been saving. Can I have 1 hour of your time? 1 hour of your time." We don't think about that, but this is the thing that our kids are dying for: quality time. For me to say, when was the last time that my dad played soccer with me, or my dad did this for me, or my dad. These are the things you, as a child, you're gonna remember. You're not gonna remember the thousands of dollars your dad gave you, because that money is gonna be spent and gone. But these are the things that we are gonna remember. So we as a parent have to set some time for our children, and the children have to set some time for the parent. There's a time where it's known as family time, and that time, put your phones away, put the social media, put TV and everything to the side. And most of the time, this takes place at the dinner table. Dinner table is where this takes place. So start with that. Start having proper dinner time in which you communicate with each other. And inshallah, that will be the starting point. I'm not saying, having all meals together, communicating all. Some stuff is unrealistic based on the society we live in. Like, I live here too. I'm not from the moon or anywhere. So I know what's happening here. And it happens in my household too. It's not that we're immune to this. We are all going through this. If we're not going through this, we will go through this soon. So we have to remember this. And subhanallah, we have to make a lot of dua, because nothing will change everything that we're doing whenever everything that I'm talking about right now. It's all efforts. At the end of the day, everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we must remember that dua is the most important tool that we have, and we have to keep that in mind. So I asked all the parents here to make dua for your youngsters, and I asked the youngsters to make dua for your parents. And through this dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to open so many doors. And the Sheikh mentioned here, when I got here, to do a lot of takbir, tahleel. This month is very important for us to kind of praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rewards are tremendous. So we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open doors we never expected. So this, whatever I mentioned, is just the beginning. After you get through this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll be like, man, I can't believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened all these doors for us to communicate between my child and as a parent. And when the relationship gets fixed at home, the tarbiyah will also be fixed on the child and the parent. And when the child goes out, for example, when they come to the masjid or they go somewhere, and the child is acting with the best moral character, people are gonna be like, "Who's the parent of this child? Who's the parent of this child?" And you're changing the society as a whole just by changing your child and yourself. Most of us talk about how we're gonna change the world. Well, there's a saying that goes, "Change the world by changing yourself." If you don't change yourself, and you don't want to become a better asset to society, and you ask yourself, man, what is my purpose of existence if I'm not even contributing well to the society? I would say, listen, you don't have to contribute thousands and thousands of dollars in charity. I would say contribute to society by your good character, by your good morals, by being respectful, by smiling at people. These are the things that people will remember about you. The thousands of dollars, inshallah, you'll do that one day. But right now, something that we all have is a smile, is the ability to have a good character and good morals for us to have an impact in society. And that is not just when it comes to the masjid. This is, you carry it on everywhere in your life. If you are working, if you are in school, and you just have the best character, there is the Islamic best conduct that you have in society, you are doing a form of da'wah without even mentioning anything about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People are like, man, why is this person acting so good? You know, nowadays, people are acting, you go to school, you go to work, everybody's there for themselves. But you care about people. You care about your character. You care about not putting anything above Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you will see how many people will come to you, and how many people will find you, and how many people will find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through you. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ballighu anni walau ayah," convey of me even one verse. And how would you convey about the Prophet ﷺ if you don't have the character of the Prophet ﷺ? We are not going to do that. If you act well and you have the best moral character, people are going to be like, hey man, why do you act like this? Why do you do this? Then you have a chance to tell them about the Prophet ﷺ. Then you have a chance to do da'wah, tell them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you're just acting like everybody else is acting, doing dhulum, causing corruption, doing this and that, and then you tell people you're Muslim, people are gonna be like, that's why we're not Muslims. Thank God we're not Muslims. Wallah, it's sad, but it's true that most of the people, some of us wonder, how did Islam reach Indonesia, right? Nowadays people come and they say, man, Islam was spread by the sword. Islam was spread by the sword, right? And then somebody might ask, some historians were like, hey, listen, if Islam was spread by the sword, look at where Arabia is and look at where Indonesia is. How much is the distance? Did they went across the ocean, swam there with their sword and started killing people there? No, that didn't happen. There was a relationship, a transaction, a business transaction that took place between the two groups in trade. And when the Muslims in Indonesia, one of the reasons that they accepted Islam was because of the characters of these people. When it came to dealing in a business transaction, the morals, the character, they were not cheating them. They were honest with them. And it's like nowadays when you think about business, if a person is not cheating you, they're just weak. We think like this to ourselves. They're like, man, this person must be stupid or something. No, be kind even when you're doing business, and you will see how much profit you're gonna make. When you try to take shortcuts in life and you try to lie the people, not only are you getting a sin for that, but also your business itself is not going to be blissful over the long run. So as a business owner, you have to be a person of moral character. And this is the way that Islam was spread to Indonesia and other parts of the world, through people just wondering, man, these people are just too nice. Like, what's their story? And then they ask them, they say, tell us more about what is this, why you're like this. And then they have a chance to tell them, this is what the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded us to do like this. We believe in this religion. And these people are like, man, if these people are taking this way of living as a form of life, I want to be part of that too. Most of the time, whenever people take Shahada, the first thing that they do is they tell us, they say, oh, Muslims, wallahi, you guys have it all. Sometimes when we see people partying and they're doing all this crazy stuff, we're just like, man, these people, man, they must be doing nice things. But from a person that has gone and done every haram there is in this world in the daylight or at night, whenever they come to Islam, they say, you know what, I feel at peace. I feel at ease in my heart. And because Islam commands us to have the best character that there is to have. Islam tells us to be respectful to our parents. We have so many reapers that come into the masjid. Their families are not Muslim, and they ask the sheikh or they ask people in the masjid, how do I spread Islam to my parents? My parents hate Islam. You know, one of the answers that I've seen, and one of the best answers is be kind to them. Be kind to them. When you're kind to them and they're treating you with all of these evil ways and you're just kind to them, then they're gonna be like, why is my son or my daughter this way? And then the son and daughter has a chance to be like, this is what Islam commands, for us to be kind and nice to our parents. And the parent, you know, then and there will be like, you know what? I'm ready to embrace this form of life. So the only takeaway, 20 minutes? Okay. Um, inshallah, jazakallah khair. So the only takeaway I want the group here to take away and myself is that start with a smile at home. Start with a few phrases of communicating here and there. Sit down and have a meal together as a family. We do it here too. When I came here, one of the first things that I mentioned whenever I start talking is when I came here for iftar, it was one of the best vibes I felt here. And why is the people? You're seeing all these people. You don't care about your phone. You don't care about anything at that point. You care about the company. So this need to start at home with us having proper company at home for us to sit together, talk as a family, and then you will see with that, you can incorporate and be like, hey, kids, or the kids tell the parent, hey, let's have ta'aleem course class. Let's have right after salah, let's have one salah where we pray together, or we pray in the masjid and we come home and we read one hadith together as a family, and how we can implement that in our life. Slowly but surely, you start implementing these in your life and you will see how much impact you're having in society. You as a child, you as a parent, you or your character has been fixed, and you don't even know how that happened. It's because you started implementing the life of the Prophet ﷺ. And his hadith, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, is one of the most important things that you can apply in your life. This is how the Prophet ﷺ lived. And when you take the Quran and the Sunnah and you apply it to your life, trust me, your character will change. Arabia, the Sahabas, they said, we were one of the worst people before Islam, and Allah has blessed us with Islam. And today, whenever we think about one of the best characters, one of the best people to live on earth after the prophets, we think about the companions. And they were one of the worst evil people to live before they embraced Islam. And now, subhanAllah, we talk about them, we talk about their characters, we talk about all this stuff, and all this didn't happen overnight. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fix our matters in our homes. Because if this matters is fixed at home, trust me, everywhere else, masjid, outside, bridging the gap between the elders and the youngsters will become easy. But it all has to start at home. So inshallah, whatever we talked about today, are we ready to make the intention that we're going to implement it? Inshallah? Inshallah. And remember, intention, you are being rewarded just by having the intention. Whether you do it or you don't do it, that's another matter. But I hope that if you do it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will multiply it, your action, multiple different folds. So have the intention, keep renewing your intention and apply it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair for having me here. It's a pleasure to be in this great community. And I pray that Allah bless this community and all the Muslims out in the world. Please remember everybody who's struggling around the world, all of our brothers and sisters, remember them in your du'as, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take a look at ourselves and how much we care about the Muslims. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us on the day of judgment, what did you do for these people? At least you can say, oh Allah, I made du'a for them. I couldn't do anything else. But if you didn't do anything, then you'll be held accountable. So just remember them in our du'a, and may Allah make it easy for all of us. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم تقبل الله منا ومنكم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Takbir, takbir, takbir. Allahu Akbar. We thank our Sheikh for the beautiful, engaging, impactful, and well balanced lecture. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Um, when Brother Hussein came in, I was expecting that he was going to come with some papers. So I was like, this topic is very deep. So he's going to come with a lot of papers. But when he came in, and I was like, hmm, the expectation was really high. And wallahi, he did more than justice to this topic. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. A topic like this would require that we invite as many people as possible. These are like words on the map. These are like very important, topics. And I'm very grateful that, I'm part of this. I learned a lot from you. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that every one of us have learned a lot. Part of the things I would just like to reiterate is that we should endeavor to share this recording, share it with those who are not here. In fact, most of the parents that will listen to this lecture are not here, and that's also what raises your point. So we should endeavor to share, make sure people learn from this. These are like great words that shouldn't just flow away. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. We'll open the door to questions. We'll take questions from the brothers and sisters. We have just 15 minutes to do that. Then after that, we'll go to the next segment, which is the panel discussion. So if you have questions from the brother side, you can signify questions. Okay, from the sister side, our mothers, do you have questions for the Sheikh? No, thank you. If we don't have questions, it means that the Sheikh did justice. Yeah, sure. Bismillah.
Assalamualaikum. Jazakallah khairan for that lecture. It was very beneficial. My question is, 'cause I've heard from a lot of like the youth around that sometimes if they try to have a conversation with elders or those around them, they don't listen, and it's not like productive, even though they try to be patient and like employ all of the tips that you suggested. So how does one stay patient but also have like a productive conversation? Jazakallah.
MashaAllah, that's a very, very good question. And sometimes, there are people that are just difficult to deal with. You know, no matter what you say to them, they're just very difficult to deal with. And parents are not exempt from this. So there are definitely parents that I have some of my friends that their parents do not budge at all. So one of the best things that you can do for a parent like this is to make dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not above humbling anybody. Allah will humble that person no matter how much ego, how much pride that parents might have. And I know some parents that they might be like, hey man, my child can't tell me what to do. My child can't tell me what to do. And they take pride in that, even though they're wrong, you know? So we have to remember that when a knowledge comes to a person, whether it is from an elder or from a younger, we have to take that knowledge and implement in our life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us that. So to all the parents that are here, if a child comes to you and is trying to talk to you, and even though you might know what the child is saying and you know the child is wrong, there's a proper way to say it. It's not to bring and break the person. So to answer the question of the sister, one of the things that we need to do is make dua. We need to make dua, constant dua for them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fix the matter. The second thing that we need to do, even though we are patient, I ask that you be more patient because that's the only thing that we can do. We can't do anything else. What are we gonna do? Are we gonna go and try to argue with them? That's gonna make things worse because then the parent will be like the parent. There's emotions that will be brought and be like, you know what? My child is telling me this my child, as if I am the child and he's the parent. So sometimes there's this emotional thinking. So dua, more patience, and try your best. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only asks us of efforts. The end result is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is not in our hands. Many times, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was told in أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنك لا تهدي من أحببت. You do not guide who you love. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved his uncle tremendously, and he constantly kept telling him to come to Islam. But Abu Talib died without accepting Islam. And Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, he had one son who did not accept Islam. And sometimes the parents might feel this way that, hey, I did not raise my child well enough. Can anybody here tell me that Nuh alayhi salam was not the best parent? Can anyone say he wasn't a good parent? He's a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He raised three other sons that were one of the best. And he was one of the best prophets, the highest prophet mentioned in the Quran. But he had a son that did not disbelieve, that disbelieved. And we have to remember that the end result is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All Allah asks of us is effort. If our effort is there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward us for it, just like our intention. Our intention is a form of effort. So I hope that answers the question. I'm sorry, I'm not expert in this, but the only thing I can say is dua, being more patient, and trying your best, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of the rest, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khairan. More questions? Any other question? No other question. Okay. Oh, okay. There's another one. Okay. Now.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, I just want to ask the Sheikh, from your experience, what do you think, like your parents did special for you to, to be as this, I don't know, you look like a very young guy, and for you to serve with the community, I mean, like Islam in general. So, is there anything that I have to adapt, so I'm just wondering. I know, yeah, for at the end of the day, it's Allah is the one that, guides everybody. But I really believe parents they play a bigger role. So if you like to share that, I really appreciate that. Jazakallah.
The only thing that I would say is that to all the youngsters that are here, one of the things that will make you a leader one day is just serving your community. Serving your community starts with serving your family. So many people that I know, mashallah, they're the top volunteers at the masjid, but their parents are complaining at home. What's the point of you serving the community, your friends, and serving all of this other people, and everyone is saying, mashallah, this person is this and that. But at home, you're the total opposite. I would ask you, don't be two-faced. Be one-faced. And start at home. Serving and taking care of the people at your house, and then build yourself to the masjid. And start with serving your community. You know, many of us, we have a lot of things to do, and I get it. Some of us are in school, some of us are working, some of us, life is busy. But this few times that you dedicate, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you for it. So start serving your community at home, and then start coming to the masjid and volunteering, and just being involved. You know, I know today is Sunday and all of you guys could have been at home right now, enjoying watching TV or whatever. But you guys chose to come here. This tells you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose you to come here. And sometimes when we are listening to a talk, we think, I wish so and so was here right now. This person, this I don't know, brother Muhammad or sister Fatima, I'm just mentioning names, they would benefit from this talk more than me. But there's a reason why Allah chose you to be here and not them. Ask yourself why you're here. Are you here just to kind of learn the knowledge and spread it to other people? Or are you here to apply the knowledge, act upon it, and let people see that through you? So, inshallah, I hope that answers the question. Inshallah.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. So my question was, you were talking about like how a lot of the time they say that they don't want to be more involved because like the uncles and aunts don't want them to be involved. But like I think it can. I also see it from the adult perspective, whereas like a lot of the time they are calling you to come to the masjid, and like they're not, or like they're asking for like, input from the youth and they're not giving any input. So how do we kind of like combat that? If like the adults are calling the youth to come and encouraging them to come, but they're not really coming. And then what do we do as like youth that come?
That's a very important question. That's a good question to ask. And sometimes, this definitely happens. The uncles are like, "Hey man, where's the youth?" Keep calling them, they don't want to come. And it's a valid question to ask. But what I've seen is that the culture that is built has no space for youth. So when you're trying to build a culture and you're trying to bring people and you're trying to fit them in at a culture that they don't belong, they're not going to come. Like it's not going to happen. So the first thing to do is to build a culture that is more inviting for the youth. That is one of the most important things to build. And sometimes the uncles might not know how to do it. So we have to have a youth that that are immune to these things. Even though if they get pushed back, they don't go. I know people like that that they've been pushed back by people so many times. They're like, "We're not leaving. We are not leaving." And because of those people, the youth are coming to the masjid, and the uncles are like, "No, the youth are coming because of us." That's not true. Everybody knows why the youth is coming. So I ask the youth that are present here that no matter how much pushback you get and no matter how difficult it becomes, do not leave. When they push you away, when you get pushed up, not just by uncles, by anybody, when you get pushed up, don't leave. You have a duty to bring other people. This is your job, you know. And even if the masjid board pushes you away, find a way to kind of stay involved in the masjid. Don't get involved in the politics. Politics is one of the worst, whether it's in the masjid, whether it's the other side of the world, whether it's here. Don't get involved in the politics. He said, she said, let's do this, let's do that. Don't. Focus on ibad. This is one of the most. The masjid was established as a place of worship, not a place of drama. And sometimes, we watch dramas, whether it's at home, whether it's TV and stuff, and we try to bring this to the masjid, and it's sad. But please keep politics away from the masjid. Focus on ibadah. And if your ibadah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not well, then you miss the whole point of coming to the masjid. I don't care how much volunteer you're doing in the masjid, but if there's a gap between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that is not well, then brothers or sisters, you're wasting your time in the masjid. Seriously. So focus on one of the most important tasks of why the masjid was established. Everything else, Allah will make it easy, inshallah.
No.
Assalamualaikum. So we live in a country where kids get kicked out at the age of 18 to go work. And we spoke about family time, quality family time. This feels like they think that they've pushed away from the house because they get it to work. Some of them feel so upset to come home to be happy with their families, to sit and even eat. They prefer to spend Eid with their friends instead of sitting with their parents. What can we do about that? Talking about the African culture where you have to go out and work and Islam where to be with your family. How can we work around that?
Definitely. That's a very, very, that's a good question. And it's sad, but it does exist. That's something we cannot ignore. The only thing I would say is that the parents try their best. Sometimes, the kids are working, whether it's in school or work, and they're not fully present there. People have different schedules. It's very hard to get everybody together. But I would say even if you're able to get together through the weekend, even if dinner doesn't work, if lunch doesn't work, try to make a plan to go out together. Maybe some people are just so outgoing. They like to go to the park. They like to go to the swimming pool. They like to play sports. Whatever that is in your capacity, and you know your family best, for you to at least bring everybody together. The goal is to bring everybody together for people to communicate. And sometimes, even when the child is frustrated, you need to know what this child does with their friends. Sometimes they play video games with their children. And nowadays, I mean, back in the day, I remember whenever video game was everything that I could do. I want to sit home and just play video games. There was a guy, he was buying, like one of the brothers was selling a ping pong table. And he asked him, like, why are you buying it? He's like, I want to buy this for my children because all they want to do is play on their phone. And then the brother told him, why don't you get a PlayStation for them? You know, where they can play. He said, I have PlayStation 5 at home. They don't play. All they do is want to sit on their phone. He's like, me just getting this ping pong table is me just trying my best. So nowadays, day and age, whether the child is busy with work, which is actually good, I'm glad that they're busy with work because if they're not busy with work, they're busy with their phones. And this is for you to kind of figure out what does this child do with their friends and what do they like doing, and for you to kind of try to do that as a parent, whether it's being at home or outside, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be consistent battle, constant battle, and we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy, inshallah.
Amen. Jazakumullah khairan. So come to the end of the second segment. We still have question? Okay, well, good. Okay. Alhamdulillah. We thank our brother Sheikh Hussein for the wonderful presentation, helping us to answer those questions. Most of the presentations were actually practical, and I made a lot of notes here. But because of time, I would extend that to the next session. So the next session is a panel discussion where we'll be inviting the Sheikh will also be here. Alhamdulillah, we're able to get him to get him to stay. So then we'll invite the other panelists to the podium, and we'll start the third segment. This is going to be very, very interesting. Trust me. The questions the questions will help us, navigate through this challenging topic. And inshallah, I would invite the panelists, and we will take it from there. Inshallah. Uh, just like this. Yes. Yes. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, thank you. Now, so I want to thank everyone for your patience. We've been able to successfully complete two segments, and you are still very patient. Alhamdulillah. So we are starting the third segment, which is a panel discussion, and I will invite the panelists one after the other. So I'm going to start with the sisters. Usually we get this every time, like you call the brothers every time. Why? So I'm going to start with Sister Aisat Adegbedi. Now, mashallah. Takbir, Allahu Akbar. The sisters are happy because I called the sister first. I think I have just one. Okay, yeah. Oh my God, I missed Alaja. Okay. Alaja Amida Adeshina. Takbir. Now I'll call the brothers now. Brothers, I'm sorry. I know I'm in your bad book today. But it's okay. Brother Abdurrahim Deji Fagbayi. Mashallah. Brother Abdurrahim Ajani. Brother Abdurrahim Ajani. Wa alaikum salam. And Brother Fawaz Mo. Mashallah. Brother Abdul Samad Suleiman. Mashallah. Yeah, sit here. You can sit here. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Good to see you. Alhamdulillah. So we'll start with the questions. And so we are going to look at this from the perspective of understanding what the problem is. We'll identify the gaps, and then we'll look at the challenges, and finally we'll provide solutions to those challenges. And I'm going to start with the Sheikh. Sheikh, thanks for. Oh, I should just let you rest a little bit because you've been talking. Okay, so we are going to start with understanding the gap. And I'm going to start with the Sheikh. I'm going to start with this question. What steps can both the youth and the adults take to build trust? I know you mentioned, you talk a lot about trust from both sides, like the youth trusting the elders, and then the adults also trusting the youths. We need to build trust. So, what steps can both the youth and the adults take to build trust and empathy in their interactions?
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. The only thing I want to say is that any relationship starts with whenever there's a trust between two groups, it starts with communicating with the other person. So, one of the first steps that I want to say is communication. If that communication takes place over a long period of time, I pray, inshallah, that the trust will develop. So, I would say communication, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khairan. So we are trying to, build a bridge, like trying to close a gap about communication. And I want to call on Sister Aisha to answer this, to help us with this question. Can you share examples of activities or dialogue that have successfully fostered mutual respect and understanding in your experience?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I think a good example of that actually happened on social media that I saw with Imam. He's Sheikh Amar Al Shukri. I think a lot of people know him in Houston. But there was a very famous supermodel who was a hijabi, and she decided to quit supermodeling in a very public fashion. It was like 5 years ago. And she was basically saying that she felt like the way that she was representing hijab was not proper and that she was going to quit supermodeling. So, in my experience, and I'm sure with a lot of the other girls' experience, whenever this happens, the topic of hijab comes up. A lot of people like to discuss how women can do better, or they don't really look in the mirror. But what Sheikh Amar did different, and I think that was really effective, was that he looked in the mirror and he went on his social media and he asked the sisters, how can I, as a brother, as your brother in Islam, make it easier for you to wear your hijab, right? And he got a ton of answers, obviously, from the women in his comments, right? And not only did he do that, but took it a step further, and he made all of the comments into 6 categories of the most often comments, and he gave that as a lecture at Duma, right? So he turned that online question that could have been this huge problem, he could have made it the women's problem, but he made it his problem because he decided to look in the mirror. So I think a great example of how to bridge the communication gap between any two groups is to start by looking in the mirror. What can I do to make it easier on the other person to either be open to talking to me, or what can I do to become a better listener so that person feels more comfortable?
Jazakumullah khairan. That was brilliant. Jazakumullah khairan. Yeah, so I kind of like the Juma, example that you made. Like Juma is for everybody, so he's able to like present it to everyone, and they're able to assimilate it. Thank you, Jazakumullah khair. Brother Abdul Samad, um, what do you believe are the main factors contributing to the communication gap between the youths and adults in our community?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I feel like the main factor contributing to the gap between youth and adults today is perspective. A lot of the youth believe that parents are closed-minded, that parents will never be able to understand where they come from, and that listening or trying to engage in discussion with them will prove futile or prove not worth time. And that's present both in the youth. That train of thought is present both in the youth but also in parents. So a lot of people regard the youth as, like as the brother here mentioned earlier, as knowing less, as less knowledgeable, as stubborn-minded. And I feel like understanding perspective is really important from both parties. Perspective from the youth, remembering that your parents only want the best for you, remembering that your parents are trying to teach you everything you need to do to be a successful adult, and that regardless of what they're saying, it's always important to first listen and then respond. And then perspective from the parents, also remembering that the youth aren't in the same position that you were when you initially came to the country, that a lot of things have changed between when you were here and when you were an adult versus when they're an adult, when they're becoming leaders in the community, leaders in their lives in other places. So I feel like just understanding empathy is really important. Looking to learn initially and listening is the main thing bridging the gap between the two. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khairan. Yeah, empathy is really important. And like Sheikh said, like people come to the mosque and they get judged, like, oh, look at you and all of that. And that cause a kind of repulsion. And they just decide not to come to the mosque again. So that's a very important one. Thank you so much, my brother. Alaja, we have only one Alaja on this video. So I don't know if Sister Aisha is an Alaja too. I'm sorry. No. Now, in what ways can community leaders and influencers help in fostering better understanding and communication across generations?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So, on the issue of communication, I think we talked about it before and listened to the share, inshallah. Everybody talked about communication, but in the way of fostering, uh, bridging the communication gap between generations, I believe the best way is the preferences, the way that communication is actually dished out. It's very, very important. Um, for example, if we want to communicate about today's program, for example, and the only way that we communicate is through the Masjid forum, that everyone is involved, they can see that Fiqh program is happening today. In terms of perspective, in terms of preference, that's just one way to communicate. There are several other ways that we can also communicate these. So, for instance, whoever is not on that masjid forum will not get that. We know our youth are very good with, Snapchat. We can as well put that communication there, make a preference in that area. Um, Influencers, they work basically more on the social media, on the IG. Instagram, on YouTube. We could put a message there. We could use them to mention that this program is happening at the masjid. It could be like 5 seconds on their content, those influencers. They will boost the communication to let people know the fiqh today is about this topic. They have a way to blow it up there that everyone will just understand this program is happening today. Also, the manner in which communication is also apart from the preferences and the pages that we use, the type of wording is used. Some of our messages, when we read them, um, I mean, it doesn't appeal to some of us because some ways wordings and things is written, it's it's understandable for certain people, probably not everyone. So the way that messages are, worded also takes a lot of uh, preferences, understanding what the communication is all about. So yeah, the influencers, YouTubers, they are very good tools that we can use when we want to communicate stuff in the community, and mm, we shouldn't just see them as doing their social work or trying to make money for themselves. They may be making money, but what if they're also trying to do that job for something that's beneficial for the community? We may be able to explore all of these opportunities.
Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so much. That's a very nice perspective. If you look at it, like, do we as a community have people handling our social media, like Mumini social media? I think we just have YouTube. Do we have Facebook, IG? They do. Okay, and it's well managed. Yeah,
I mean, I
okay,
know we have a Facebook page for
okay,
Masjid Minute. We also have a
okay,
YouTube page.
okay,
But within our masjid members, we have influencers, we have YouTubers,
okay.
we have people who have a lot of followers who are following them on IG.
Hmm.
So we can explore all of this.
Mashallah. I think it's high time we started doing that and be more active. Even the Sheikh mentioned that, like, one of the imams that was invited, it doesn't have like social media. So how are you gonna engage the youth? Like, you have to catch them where they are, right? And it's for the good um, purpose, right? So I think one of the learnings from today's gathering is that Masjid Mumini as a community should explore the opportunities that we have, especially the youth who are already on social media doing wonderful things, to do it for Allah, to use it for Allah and use it for the community, to bring people. If we have Facebook, we should be able to evaluate how many of the youths are connected to that Facebook account, the IG, and all of that. So communication has to be extended beyond the four squares of the masjid, inshallah. Now, jazakumullah khairan for that. Um, Brother Fawaz, um, in your opinion, how can adults be more open and receptive to the ways in which the youth express themselves? How can the adults, like, you see the adults every time, you see how they behave towards the youth. So, what are the other areas that you feel like they can be more open and be more receptive to the ways the youth express themselves? When the youth express themselves, how do you expect the adults to behave towards them?
Assalamualaikum. So I think that basically it depends on their understanding. Like, so the way we feel is not the way most adults feel. So like brainstorming and talking with them one on one would like help them understand our points and we understand their points so we can see if this is the right way we should go and whether it should not go that way.
That is short and heavy or deep. So, and I kind of like how this panel is set up. It gives us the understanding of, and these are like words from the heart. Like, he said it the way he feels, and I think we've been able to get something from that. and then we, inshallah, take that very, very important. Quickly, I'll go to brother Abdurrahim Deji. Um, brother Abdurrahim Deji. So, how do you how do cultural and social dynamics influence the communication gaps, and what specific challenge do they present?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So I think it's different because we live in America and times are changing quickly and the ideology change with it. So we have I don't know unprecedented things going on in the youth that didn't happen in the parents' generation. So I think I think it's better for parents to understand where disagreements come from, like how the youth feel about certain things, and it's good for us to shield our youth from a lot of the things changing in the society that bring up our youth in. Because if we don't shield them, they're going to be assimilated to the broader society as well. I think that's important when it comes to like, communicating between uh, the older generation and like in the culture, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of like that perspective. Most importantly, there's this Nigerian culture, versus the American culture. Like the parents are Nigerian, the kids are in quotes Nigerians, but they're actually Americans. So that's cultural difference. Like sometimes parents want to communicate, but they yell, like they yell to communicate, and the kids are not used to yelling. Like they spend most of their times in the school, right? So that's like a contrasting, view to the kids, like so, and that's one area that culture plays a role. Another one is, how the kids want to appear and all of that. I mean, it has to be Islamic, but like when I was coming here today and I look at the topic, I wanted to wear one shoe like that. I just said, no, I'm going to wear something that is going to match, you see, so that I can bridge the gap. So thank you, my brother. Jazakumullah khair. So we'll move to Sheikh. Um, so what type of training or workshop would you recommend for both youth and adults to improve their communication skills?
Jazakallah khair. Uh, One of the most important things that we can do is, you know how we're having a panel discussion right now? I would say bring few youth and parent in the panel. And when they're sitting together and ask thought-provoking questions and for them to have a discussion in front of everyone. That way we understand what the parent wants from the youth and what the youth want from the parent. And inshallah, that is the starting point. I would say start with like just having a youth discussion like this and having the parents in the audience, and then flip another day just have the parents here and the youth sitting, and then the third section is bring both of them together so that they can discuss inshallah.
Any other one?
Another thing that I would say is just you know sometimes where we have like a youth lock-in and where we discuss few topics and things. We need to have a parent lock, just like just for the elders, where we something like this and we discuss how we need to behave at home. Just like the brother mentioned, sometimes when a parent cannot communicate with the child, they scream at the child, and that's not something sorry, and that's not something that a child will learn by. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, if I don't listen, I'll get spanked, right? And that's the way I learned. And it happened here to the elders, so some of them, but the youngsters, like, they won't learn like that. So I think, starting something like this, inshallah, will be beneficial. And then from there, asking them, what do you think will be better? And different people learn different ways. So I think that'll be a good starting point, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khairan. Sister Aisha, what are the long-term benefits of successfully bridging the communication gaps between the youth and the adults for the community as a whole?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I think the long-term benefits, as the Sheikh was mentioning, is just the impact that you see on the community and also the world at large. You have healthy relationships that start at home. You'll have healthy relationships in the communities, and then you'll have healthy relationships with people outside of your community. So I think it's worth the investment to have infrastructure that will help to build healthy relationships intergenerationally. Because also, like we were mentioning with culture, we are the generation that is here first after our parents came here from wherever they came from, and so that is very difficult to deal with. You know, someone has to do it, and Allah does it for it to be us. Um, and so feeling that intergenerational gap, learning to listen to one another, to actually empathize and not just, talk about empathy, but, are you actually sitting and thinking about what another person might be feeling like in this situation, Or are you just thinking about yourself and how they make you feel? But the long-term benefits of that are healthy relationships, and healthy relationships build healthy people. I think when it comes to like mental health, people talk about mental health a lot now, but it's always existed, good and bad mental health, but people are recognizing it more and more now. And I think the long-term benefit of that is having people in the community that you can trust to go with your problems. And like the chief was saying, sometimes when you have a problem, you just want someone to listen to you. You don't even want a solution. You just need someone to go and share that problem, right? And there's always a God. He's always there to listen to your problem. Sometimes you feel like you're alone in the problem, right? So when you're able to talk to someone and they actively listen to you because you know that you're safe with that person, um, then you're able to make better decisions about your life and in the end have a more fruitful life, inshallah. So I think the long-term benefits of bridging that communication gap and enable people to feel safe talking to other people in their family and in their community.
Jazakumullah khair. One thing I notice is like kids tend to lose confidence, when they don't get this, straight communication. And another thing that keeps coming up is the issue of trust. Like most of the panelists have been talking about trust. We need to work on building trust and relationships. Like everyone here, this is a community, right? But individually or in family, peers, we're like homes. So it's like we have so many homes here, like over maybe 50 houses in this hall. So we have so many homes coming together to form a community. So if each home is well guided, then our offsprings and our youth will definitely reflect, in the society. They will reflect those positive changes or impacts in the society. Thank you so much, my sister. Brother Stomach, how can we ensure the efforts to bridge this gap are sustainable? Like we've been talking about what to do. Now, how can we sustain it? If we are able to get it right, how can we sustain it? And how can we evolve with changing societal dynamics? That question should have gone to Brother Deji, but I will let you take it because he mentioned he was the one that answered the question on culture. But do you want to take it or you want to give it to him? Okay, so how can we ensure that the efforts to bridge this gap, this communication gap, are sustainable and evolve? Like evolution, how the society is changing. How can we evolve? How can we adapt? You know, do you understand the question? Do you understand the question? You want to go? Okay, sure.
So I think the parents can start by, I guess, meeting the youth where they're at, like being on. We're not like downloading social media, but like actually, yeah, I would say like maybe the parents can download social media as well, and and like connect with the youth in some ways. I mean, that's where we're usually at on social media, and I think also the youth can reciprocate the same thing and get off the phone and I guess meet the parents where they're at. Like, I guess traditional types of media like Yeah, Facebook. Or it doesn't have to be on the phone. It could just be like I guess in person. Just I don't know. Yeah, that's just meet each other where each other at.
I kind of agree with you. Like, if you think, okay, you wanna have something? Yeah, Bismillah.
So I wanted, kind of just to add on, I feel like another really good way to assess and evolve how the youth are connected with parents is just through active observation. So one easy way to tell whether or not a group is connected is communication between them. So if you're, I guess the example of a parent and a child, if the child feels comfortable coming to you and telling them about your day and telling you about their friends, inviting their friends into your house, if you know a lot of what is going on in their life, that's one way to directly assess whether or not communication and connection is being fostered between the two groups. And then if it's not, obviously you have to look at the main areas where that group focuses their attention. So in youth, obviously, it's online. It's a lot of social media, and like you were saying, the step there is taking like downloading social media. Like my mom followed me on Instagram a couple of days ago, which was crazy. Right? Um, I have a friend who's had his mom on Snapchat for like 10 years now. And that's crazy, but his mom is in his life in that way. And in the same way the youth can do the same for parents, parents love to be in the community. They love to be around other parents and talk. So, bringing your kid to the masjid, having them talk with you guys, involving them in the masjid, and things like that, I feel like is another really good way of making sure the connection is there. And as for evolving, again, we have to circle back to communication. You can't evolve without communicating. You can't evolve without having a line of an exchange of information between what's new and what's old. As youth are encountering new things, new information, new things on social media, in the real world, they need to communicate with parents. That again being possible through social media, but also through panels like this, through engaging with the community, telling them about your observations, what you see, what you experience, and then exemplifying that through your actions. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so much. Um, so if we think we can pull like the kids away from social media, it's possible, but it is better to nip it before they start engaging. But once they are in, it's like it's like drugs. Like some people say they call it doom scrolling. Doom scrolling. Like they are doom. You just scroll. You keep when you see this, you scroll, you scroll. Before you know it, you spend the whole day. And let me shock you. Most parents are on social media. They are on Facebook. Have you had Esabod before? Esabod. Have you had Esabod before? No, no, no. You were saying like parents should download. They are there. The parents are there. They're already there. They need to connect. Yeah, yeah. So, I'll say this. This is very important, and it leads to the next question because parents are on social media and they are just doing their own thing, but you don't know they are there. Yeah, and how do we now, connect this and bring the Islamic value into it and Islamize it? You understand? So that question will go to Elijah Abida. What role can technology play in enhancing communication between youth and adults? And how can we ensure it is used effectively?
So it's always technology, and technology is not stopping. Technology keeps evolving. It's happening every day and now. In professional work, technology is continuing to evolve daily. So bridges communication gap between the youth and the parent. Communication does a lot. I'm here with you today. Adults should download social media. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any other parents that are on social media that the kids are on, not the one that you want to do. Because yes, you were asking about Instagram. I don't know about Instagram. I'm hearing from you, but I have been with friends before. So on my own social media, it's not what the typical moms are going. My social media is where my kids are. It's where I want to be because I want to see what's happening there. I want to see what's going on. Another thing, guys, is that sometimes we want to see there. We want to follow you for you. your followers because there's certain things you don't want us to see, which I get it. I'm not arguing that you should. If you feel like there's no safe space, I think is some of the technology that's out there that people can be there when kids are. That's fine. We're not supposed to push, But it's always good also to find another way. There's always a way to go around it. Technology is very good, but we have to know how to use it. If parents are thinking that being on Facebook or following certain all those I don't know what they call it, those the the Nigerian what's that called again? Those it's not the content creator, those are the ones that work for them. The one that are like yes, not the celebrities by the way. These are the people that have their own like talk, like their podcast. Yes. What do we call it? Yeah, here is podcast, but in Nigeria it's not a different thing. They will say people have to like, join the um to subscribe to the channels and follow that person. Yeah, and this person brings like topic. Yeah, yeah. You know, that what you just mentioned is something I have about this Ramadan here at Masjid. And I found that so many people are following that person a lot. Like they are subscribing to that person's channel, they listen to all the topics that the person is bringing. Very hard to by the way. Again, this is something that replaces the parents, right? So not necessarily that you're not on, social media, but you're not aware kids are supposed to be. So my advice about using technology is try and make social media the one that involve your youth, the one that involve family. Okay. I will give you an example of why that is very important. We were in a situation where some of one of our family members or a family friend uh, is looking for where the child is, they don't know where the child is. We have to find out the location of the child through its social media. So if you're not there, if you don't know how to connect to that type of faith, then you get so much worry as to where is the child, where the child is. Whereas the child in some way it's not if we can take on so messages on Instagram, we can always find this person. So this is one way technology is very useful. Another way I would say parents should try and not think that one technology is and I'm good and that's not going to put more effort. We need to try more and more, even in professional standards. If we don't move ahead as technology is moving ahead, we will just find a certain positions at work and not allowed to get into there because we didn't improve ourselves. So if we are only on Facebook and we are following certain channels on those Facebook, well, I don't know how to say your kids are not on those. They don't understand those kind of topics that those people are bringing in. Whereas where they belong, and you can see what is happening to them, is where we should try and use the technology to be around and then be able to use it so the way that it will be beneficial for us. Again, just giving an example of a child that we were looking for. Another example also is to understand what is happening around. I guess somebody was saying that when when the parent um, wanted to, when her mom follows. Okay, now what about the situation we are on technology, we're using the Facebook, or we are on Instagram with you guys, and or we are on Snapchat, and we can see certain things that is not right that we know that kids are doing. Now, my advice in this area for parents just keep cool, do not jump at the kid at the same time when you saw this. Oh my God, look at you, what you wearing, and that. If you do that, not only your child is just gonna follow you, everybody connected to that are gonna follow you. You lose them. Right away. Please keep your cool. This is your child or your friend's child, whoever it is, and you are so concerned about what you have seen. So just keep your cool, try and find your way to reach them different setting. If you blow it up right there on Instagram, that's it. You are already right away. And they generally try to follow you or someone that follow you or follow that person too. So, this is very important that we are talking about it. I just want to mention something if you don't mind sharing. Because we are talking about this, I try to do this 1 minute right, I don't for us to understand why this is very important. So in this hall right here, we have about five of different generational guys. We have the so to say we call it traditional. We have people born before 1945. Mashallah. We have baby boomers, those between 45 and 64. We have Generation X, 65 to about 1980s. We have the millennials, 1981, 1996. We have Generation X, 1997, and on and on like that. So if we are trying to reach communication gap with having technology, we need to do something that we call customized communication. Communication that tailor all these generations. And the first thing you do that is mutual respect. Then only mutual respect. I want my people to respect me, I need to respect my kids as well. It does not matter if I'm their mother or it doesn't matter if I'm their father. I have to talk to my child in a very respectful tone, respectful mode. It does not demean me as a mom or a parent. I think some of us, and I'm not faulting anybody, just like you said when we talk, we kind of yell. We are not going to yell. I'm speaking right now. I yell. Somebody say yes. We could be yelling to our kids because this is our home. So when we come down, when we talk to our kids at home, first thing I'm going to say is, I'm not trying to yell. I'm not trying to yell. That's respecting my child because my child will think I'm yelling. And if you talk to them, every group of the youth here, all my children, they're going to say, oh, don't shout a lot. Yeah. But this is just my tone. This is the way, this is my language. This is the way I talk. So respecting our kids, trying to tell them, I'm not yelling at you. I'm not trying to shout at you. It's something we can say to them so they can understand. But if they say, Mom, you're shouting, yes, I'm shouting, can I answer? Well, you know what I mean? We can get somewhere with that. And sometimes it gets really hard, right? At home, sometimes you try to correct your price everything. I think the best thing also is to think of that mutual respect. Demanding respect from my child, but I have to also think of them as an individual, as a human. They also would like to be respected. So I just take a deep breath, just relax, and okay, you know what? Maybe we'll talk about this later. And then just let it act like that. Because when this really hard to when don't really like when we talk to a chief, it tries to come in and it doesn't get well. Yeah, that's what I have for us.
Jazakallah khairan. That was really, really thoughtful. Thank you. Um, I just want to add a few points. We still have time, so I just want to quickly add a few more points to the technology aspect. So, in addition to the social media, so with social media, once we can't control them before they get on it, it's difficult to like. We just need to manage the situation. Just to buttress some of your points. So, in addition to that, as a community, we need to have a database. So, communication is wide, it's a very wide topic. We need to have a database of all the youths in the community. I'm not sure if we have that in here. Like if we say Abdulrazak is in Texas University, is in 200 level, and this is what he does. This is his phone number. We can call him. We can do that. Do we have that type of database where you can look up somebody and get information about that person within the community, and then be able to assign roles or responsibility to that person? On behalf of the community and all of that. We need to connect. Like We need to create a bond. When kids leave the community for college and all of that, sometimes we lose them. Sometimes they don't want to come back to Texas. And before going to Texas, I mean, before going to college, they'll be like, Mom, Dad, Texas is the best place and all of that. Once they leave, oh, I don't want to go back. It's too hot. you know. But once there's a bond, like a covalent bond, once there's a bond, when they go out, they still want to come back because there's a bond. But most times, because it's a very weak bond, they might just say, I want to start my life elsewhere, you know, and then, so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make that easy. So we need to have a database, we need to start working on that. Another thing like, that I also want to um, emphasize on your point is that most of these practical steps, we hear them, but we don't implement. So like before leaving here, and I kind of like how you ended your lecture where you like got the commitment of the audience, to say like, are you gonna do this? Because most times we hear a lot of lectures, but we don't like put in the action. Like action is everything, even in business, in career, everywhere action is important. You have to take action. So I just want to employ everyone of us here, the kids, the adults, everything we've had here, let's make sure that we implement. That's where success lies. So I'll go to Ralph Fawaz. We'll be talking about communication, and it seems that we are just focused on kids, parent, kids. But sometimes some kids come here, it's not even their parents, it's one uncle, it's one auntie that will just come and say, look at you, and then they'll say those things and the kids will never come here. And sometimes it might just be somebody trying to get food or something, and they just tap or push the person, you go and sit down, and the person will feel, no wanted and they will never come in. And sometimes these kids, they won't even express, their feelings. They will just hold it and off they go, never to come back, and we want to build a community. So I would like to address that question to Fawaz. Like, how would you like to be treated? You know, by the members of the community. Like when you come here, how would you like to be treated to make you, feel like I just want to come here. I just want to come to Mumini. Like there are some kids, they wake their parents up. Are we not going to Mumini today? Mommy, let's go. And there are some people when there are some kids when their parents call them, they're like, oh no, not again. So for us, how would you like to be treated in the community when you come here from the adults? How would you like to be treated? How do you like to be communicated with?
It's so firstly, like Sister Hamida said, like there should be mutual respect. Like you shouldn't belittle someone else. Like for example, what he said before, you're waiting in line, you want to get right, and they give you like right sides of portion, but like they now say, ọmọ kékeré yìí lẹ fún ẹran tó tóbi báyìí, or they do something like that, or they do something like that. So I just feel like everybody should be like treated properly and like since I've been coming here, like it isn't the first time, but like since I know I'm part of this community and like once you know where you belong, you won't let one incident like put you behind. You know that there are people who are bad and you know there are people that are good. So just try to stay on the good side.
Fawaz, I think I'll be asking you most of the questions because you are engaging everybody. Anytime you take the mic, oh my God, alhamdulillah, mashallah. And I kind of like, your perspective. You see, those things that we don't really pay attention to, they hold on to it. And it started with respect. It's important for us to respect, we have those. And these are part of the things that Sheikh mentioned, right? You spoke a lot about, respect, respect, respect. It's very, very important, like how we treat them. And there's something about kids. That's why we have a lot of fufas in our midst. They don't forget things easily. We will be old. We will not be like this. "Ah, you remember that woman, that daddy? How you treat?" They will not forget. Their brain is magnetic. So please, let's treat them because they are the future. Like I remember when we were studying biology in those days, they would say the purpose of reproduction is to prevent extinction so that you can produce somebody like you. These are the future. These are the next president of Muminin. You know, is the way we treat them. That's what they will pass around. The Sheikh said, "What goes around comes around," right? You know, so if we treat them well, they will also pass it out. They will pass it to the next generation, and that is very, very important. I kind of like how he presented his points. May Allah bless you. May Allah make you the president of the United States, inshallah. So I will throw it to the audience now. I know the audience have been like, but I have questions. The panelists have been answering all the questions. So I'm going to start from the sisters, from the brothers now, so that I don't get. Where are all the brothers? If we are to share money at the end of this program, that's how the brothers will lose out. Okay, brother Tawfiq, mashallah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa
You
barakatuh.
said something about having a database where you can easily reach the youth, wherever they are, assign responsibilities, just let them be part of the community in terms of management and likes. And I know the executive of this community are trying to get that done, or maybe they need help. I know you are one of the big guys in database, things like that. So I would like to use this opportunity to ask if it is something that you be able to help the community with. Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Because you know that if you say it one on one, I might turn it down. Now you want everybody to. You want everybody to. I'll think about it, inshallah. But I think it's important. It's really, it's what we need. It's very important, inshallah. Now, from the brothers. No, mashallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
This is more of a comment rather than a question, and I'm going to direct that to the parents, especially. A lot of us we are first generation immigrants. I mean, the parents were born, bred, and raised in a different culture, and that culture is totally different. It's like turning something on its head, turning it upside down. Back home in Nigeria, I don't know, some of our youth will not be able to relate with. The adults are always right under all circumstances, regardless. You wrong them, they wronged you, it's one way. The youth or the younger ones always have to apologize. They are never wrong. They are always right. So that's something that is different in this environment. You cannot command this youth respect if you come in with that perspective. If you still have that mentality, that Agbalagba ni, ní Naija, ní Nigeria, I'm sorry, Sheikh, I'll say this in Yoruba. Tọmọdé bá ṣe àgbàlagbà, ọmọdé ló máa bẹ àgbàlagbà. Tágbàlagbà bá ṣe ọmọdé, ọmọdé náà ló máa bẹ àgbàlagbà. If there is a case or situation involving an adult and the youth, when they are settling the case, all the youth, the youth will be the one to apologize to the elder. So we have to be open-minded. And one thing again that shocks me is when we are outside, we do it, we conform. But when we come to within our community, we want to hold our youth and ourselves to different standards. When we are out there at work, somebody that is 20 years younger than us will call you by your first name. I'm not saying I'm not being an advocate of that we should throw our cultures out totally. But respect in this environment, it's kind of defined differently. And we should be very aware, we should be conscious of that. My boss is my boss at work. It was a shock for me, my manager, like, I don't know how many years between us in terms of a career. The first one-on-one meeting that I had with him, I was calling him Mr. Something. He said, "My name is Mike. Don't call me Mr. Specs. No, Mike." That doesn't define respect. But to a lot of us here, it is a big And I'm not saying our youth should be calling our grandma by their first name. I know that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying if we have that understanding, we have that perspective, it helps. It kind of uh, water down some of the things that we put so much that we're very aggravated about. You understand? Uh, uh, I like the example that Fawaz mentioned. Simple fact that you send a youth to go and get water, maybe because I don't know, you respond in a way, you like sending him to his parents as in for who is your father, who is your mother, like you know. So let's have that perspective. Let's you know uh, our concept of respect back home is a little bit different from what we experience here. And like I said, we do conform where we when we find ourselves in the larger environment. When we come here, we expect different things. May Almighty Allah help us. Amali.
Jazakumullah khairan. That was really thought provoking. Jazakumullah khairan. There's one hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu where the Prophet, I think the hadith was collected by Abdullah ibn Amr. Radiallahu anhu, he said that the Prophet said, Mawla yarhamu sagirina wa yarfa'u haqqun kabirina falaysa minna. Like, he who does not respect our youth, like our youths. You don't respect them. And those youths that do not give the honor and due to the adults, they are not part of us. And that is really big. Like when the prophet says that if you do this character, you are not part of us. It's like you are not a Muslim. So like it's big, right? It's a big thing. Everybody has been talking about respect, respect. We just need to put it into action. And voila, if you put it into action, we'll start seeing the results. The kids will be more happy, the adults will be more happy. It's mutual. If you see an elderly like our mom, all this our grandma, take their bag, help them. Like it's that's Islam. You have to show honor to the elderly ones. And also the elderly ones must show that is Islam, that is practical Islam. So may Allah make it easy for us. We will go to the sister side and others to take questions. I know we'll get nothing less than 10 questions from there. No.
Okay. So I have a different perspective on what you guys were talking about technology and social media. So I think a lot of the time why the youth even spend a lot of time on social media in the first place is because like they're bored. Let's just say that. A lot of times they're bored. So I think instead of focusing on the parents, oh like you should join social media or this or that, I think focusing on family time outside of social media is the first thing. Because how are you gonna build bonds? Like building bonds through social media with your family to me is like crazy perspective because those are the people that you literally with. So instead of being like, oh, they join on social media, why are we doing things like a family? Like why are we going out to the park? Why are we going out and playing sports together? Like just simple things like that. Going to the mall together. Things that you do with some of the things that you can do with your friends, you can also do with your family. So I think that's a perspective that we need to bring in instead of saying like, oh, everyone should just join social media. I think it's different when you're saying like publicize events through social media. That's one thing that makes sense because that's where most people are finding out about events. But connecting with your parents through social media, I don't know. I think that's something different. And I think we should focus on doing stuff outside of social media with your parents, so that, like you said, they do have a connection. Or even with the masjid, I was also telling my friends today that we could do like stuff outside of the masjid, even like family picnics. I know some masjids do that, and that's different. That's like, oh, they're actually building bonds with different generations outside of just like having a lecture. Like the lectures are great, mashallah, we love them, but at the same time, people want to do other stuff other than lectures, and I think that would be a way to actually like foster that's something that we can actually do as a community. That's an action item for us to actually put into practice.
Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so much. I think, and I hope that the organizers are noting some of these, because these are like, feedback. And these are like great feedback, for the community executives. Doctor, so it's important to like connect have activities beyond like the four squares of the masjid with okay, Bismillah.
Yes, I agree that connecting with your family member via social media shouldn't be the only thing. So connecting with your family member via social media, especially when they are not at home, like when you guys go to college, after college, go to work, we don't see you, or girls get married. So yes, so still want to keep the family ties going. So social media, the space where your children are, will work in that space. But what about technology? Using technology while the kids are still at home. You should also still have a forum in which you talk. So I agree you want to play games together. You want to decide some, maybe family soccer and back in the day when my kids were younger, it is girls in the family versus boys. Of course, the girls outnumber the boys in my family. When we know they're going to win soccer, we always go to the Eldridge Park. We decided that in that time may be the last Saturday or the first Saturday. I don't remember what it was. So that's something the family can do together. Also, even inside the home, you could play those, board games. Taboo is one of them that we have in our house. There was one that now, which is very funny. It's something like taboo, but it's like the Nigerian culture one. Um, we played it in one of the sisters' party, and then I realized they sell it in one of the African stores. I bought that game, we take it home. Anytime we have their friends coming, we sit together, we play the game, and in fact, that is very, very, family bonding. Because we always remember the answer that somebody always gives that is super funny. That all of us were laughing so hard because some of the questions are something that the American kid born here had no idea what the answer was, but just use the US idea to answer the question. So funny. So yes, those are family time that you can bond. You could also set up time to, like she said, go to mall. What about do vacation together? Go on cruise together. I mean, do stuff that's physical, like among yourselves. When you have those time, those are the quality time that we are talking about. Technology still have a way in all of this. When you're setting up, for example, vacation, and somebody has to go to work and you all cannot sit down in the living room at the same time to decide, oh, where should we go? Disney, San Antonio, Six Flags, whatever. So technology will take a role in that. You all want to decide. It's not like, rather just talk now that I'm the mom. This time, I want us to go to Six Flags, period. Whether you like to go or not, this is where we're all going. And they don't want to go. They want to go somewhere else. So again, technology takes a role in that. So we all were able to discuss, we were able to come to an agreement wherever we want to go for vacation. Okay, what about bike ride? We can do bike riding together. What about race? That was my own one. I do all the races. There's so many races in Houston, and we want hijabi to be represented. When we started joining the Houston Marathon, it was not because we want to get fit only. It's just to feel the presence of the Muslim in this community. And mashallah, our sister started doing the walk the talk, right? We went along one of the 5 Ks from the Houston Marathon. And, hearing like that, some of us will try to attend. You could put your family, you could register, let everybody, attend this race. This is something that's a large community. And now your family is representing in, and you see your family friends, you invite your family friends, everybody is partaking in that. So these are very important points that our sister just mentioned. Create certain things that we have to do together. And those places, I can tell you now, my kids, mashallah, college or married now. Some of those church that Houston, we are using 5K or the marathon that we've been attending. those shirts are there. When they come home and they say, our mom, oh my God, remember when we was raised? These are memories that we share together. That is really good. And we still do it until now. And for those who are married, now even their husband, oh, we are going to have a kid on. There's going to be, Sugarland race. Try to tell your wife they all always do it together before. So then the tradition extend beyond, you know, family alone. So yes, if we have not started it when they were younger, then we have nothing to, you know, remember. We have no memories to share. So and these are very good things that we can do together as a family. Yeah, let me get
Yeah.
Quickly, I also add, so didn't necessarily agree with parents having children on social media, just because of several things. But one thing I wanted to mention was just some insight on why children or youth or younger adults like spend so much time on social media is to kind of escape reality. Like living in America is hard, the economy is bad, a lot of people go through a lot of different things. Um, so when you get on social media, you see different things. You don't have to think about your own life. You can just keep scrolling, worry about other people, and then like you don't have to be so serious about your own life, right? So I think building a safe environment at home where that kids or children or youth don't want to escape from, they won't be so quick to go to social media, right? Like they won't be so quick to escape into their video games all the time, right? Because what are they doing with those video games? Usually they're playing with a friend, right? And with your friend, you're not really going to be on your phone because you're still engaged with the conversation, what you're talking about, whatever. So I think that building that relationship is the most key aspect, and I think the major problem with that is what the brother and sister talking about. Like as a parent, respecting your child and actually listening to them. I think a lot of us children can times we just want to be heard by our parents. We don't necessarily want a solution to the problem all the time. We just want an audience with them. And sometimes when you go talk to them, they're too busy, they're working, or they just start talking to you about all the things that you can do in the house, or like all the you know, all the chores that you do, and you just wanted to have a conversation. So you're like, okay, well, then I'm just gonna spend time alone by myself. And that's an epidemic in itself, like loneliness. Even when you're in a crowded room, you feel like you're alone. You feel like no one is listening to you, and that starts out.
Now, Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so much. Same on that same social media, like the kids, if they don't want you to follow them, they know what to do. They'll create multiple accounts. You'll just be following a dummy. You'll you're following a dummy account. Oh, my child is so good and all of that, mashallah. And on the other one, the person is just, may Allah help us. So I think the most important thing is a mutual understanding. Parents to let their kids know that I'm not trying to control or monitor you. I'm just trying to stay here and be sure that you are doing the right thing. It's all about communication. It still boils down to communication, and the kids need to understand too. Why the parents are trying to understand what's going on out there. It's a crazy world out there. Using your word like it's really bad. Like social media is it's a world on its own. It's like a sea that can take you away, like away and away. So may Allah protect us. More question from the sisters? No.
Assalamualaikum. So we spoke a bit about wordings for like events and things like that. I have a question, but before that, I have a comment. I think that also, like as a community, we have to take responsibility because if we're being honest, everybody knows that fiqh session happens. Well, fiqh session we do fiqh, but fiqh session happens every second Sunday of the month. Family halal is the last Sunday of the month, and last time we had the fiqh session, it was packed. Like there were people here, but this time there's nobody here. They saw the topic and they weren't interested in the topic and they didn't come. And then also sometimes parents don't read them some parents themselves don't come. And I feel like also we need to promote more. Maybe we can look into the avenues such as, I don't know, posting on Instagram and all the other suggestions. But at the same time, whenever there's like a party or some type of other event, even if the invite is not posted, somehow everyone gets there. Like they find a way to pull up. But when it comes to coming to the masjid, then everyone needs like a personal invite. And that doesn't make sense. Like if you want to come, you should come. And if you have kids that you know should be here, you should be them. If you have your friends that you know should be here, they should be at the masjid. It's a very important topic. And I'm sorry, it should be packed. It's not nice to first of all the people that organize and take time to bring the sheikh from somewhere else, and then also just the general community. But on top of that, what is this? What type of words or what type of flyers can be more enticing to bring more people to come? If we do give them the benefit of the doubt, that maybe I don't know the flyers or the titles are not useful. I guess the question for Sheikh, what is usually maybe for Sabri things that usually make you come out or make people come out to the event? Like, is it certain structure, certain titles and wordings, or what's the solution? I guess exactly.
Very good question. This is something that we struggle with. This is something every community struggles with. But I would say one of the things that I saw people come is, as sad as it is a personal invitation. You know, like when you're inviting somebody to a wedding, you have to, like, with the elders, you have to reach out to them, call and tell them, hey, this I'm getting married. The youngsters, you can just kind of just hit share, forward, all, and everybody comes up. But it's sad how, like the sister mentioned, that when it comes to some parties and stuff, you don't post it, yet everybody knows about it. But then when it comes to coming to the masjid, you have to personally invite them and you have to nag them for them to come. But one of the things that we have to ask ourselves is, what are we doing? w- Like, what can we do to bring them? Like, is the programs that we are hosting too boring for them? Is the stuff that we're doing too boring? Because at the end of the day, nobody just wants to come and listen. Everybody's just trying to gain something. And this is sad, but it's true. Everyone's getting something out of it. So coupling the program with the social activity will be something amazing for the kids. Whenever we do like a Kahoot night, for example, or a bonfire, I see people, I'm like, where are you even coming from? Like, I didn't even know you exist, right? 200 people, 200 kids show up, right? But then when we do other programs, like 5 people, 6 people. So I'm not saying we have to do Kahoot or bonfire every week, but I'm telling you, I feel like if we do those, they'll show up. But I'm saying we need to do something that might be attaching a social activity that will bring them. So at least if they don't come for the program itself, they came for the social activity. I know a few years back we tried bringing pizza, and that brought a lot of people. But now because pizza is happening every week, they don't care. Normal. Oh, I'm gonna get pizza. I don't care. So changing it up and coupling it up with the social activity, inshallah, will be the beginning. And then asking them from there, getting them suggestion, feedback, inshallah, and applying it, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khairan. Quickly, I just want to add that, if we continue to do things the way we've been doing it, we will continue to get the same results. So it's important for us to, evolve and be innovative. So, and this calls for like strategic thinking, among like, the organizers and all of that, to sit down and see how can we do things differently. We can do like 2 minutes, 1 minute video, how you see it on Instagram and all of that, to introduce the topic and share the benefits to the parents and all of that. So that might be one way to do it. Another way is, people feel like, what's in it for me? Why should I be there? And that also portrays our understanding of Islam. What is ibadah? People feel like ibadah is just when you go to the masjid, you do two nafla, you pray salat, you fast, that's ibadah. No, everything a Muslim does, whatever you do as a Muslim, and as long as you have the intention that you are doing it for the sake of Allah, in line with the teachings of the Prophet Sallallahu, it is ibadah and you'll be rewarded for it. So our sitting down here, if we have the right intention, we are also getting reward. And what do we want as Muslims? We want reward. So, but when people don't understand this, they feel like some other things are more of higher priority. So these are like things we can't control. It's the level of demand and all of that. So there are things that we can control, and there are things that are beyond our control. But what is within our control is what we should work towards. Like, how can we make this more attractive, and how can we make it more impactful? If people see value in something, they will plug into it. Right. Let's wait. Sister Aisha, can you hold on a little bit? Bismillah. Wa alaikum salam.
Just want to add, in terms of we are aware of what's going on, like the program of today. What we can do is to maybe during the demand prayer, we can announce during our women alaka or men alaka or youth alaka, like 4 weeks before the program start announcing. Let everybody be aware because most of the time, when you send it on the meeting, whatever, not everybody are there, or not many people be aware because of all the stuff they put in there. Like myself, sometimes I just delete it to give space, on my phone. But you can start another day during the like women program, you know, on like we have before you before the program we can announce and let everybody be aware, talk to the children, especially this kind of program for the this is what we take very serious, especially when it comes to the youth program. It's family like I just went here. Or maybe if I move to family like and let us do for the youth. If we know that everybody to be that area, let us move to that, to that way.
Thank you so much for that. That's Sister Aisha.
Okay. We heard a lot about Iman, levels of Iman in people's children and the youth. And one thing that I want to comment about on that topic is how people introduce who Allah is to their children. If the only time you bring up Allah to your children is that He's going to punish them for doing something wrong that they're doing, then they're not going to learn to love Allah the way they should. Right? Allah has so many names besides being someone who punishes or being someone who um, will should be feared. Right? There's a level of hope and there's a level of love that comes with being a Muslim with Allah. And so teaching your children to love Allah and Allah is loving and also being loving and merciful and forgiving is going to foster the connection with them and Allah that and that's something that you can control. Right? If they're constantly being told I'm gonna do this to you because you're doing that, you're gonna be like, well, that God doesn't really sound very merciful to me. Right? But you are constantly telling them how beautiful and kind and loving Allah is, and I think that that will have a better, more positive impact in their relationship with their deen. And I also think that every person has to go their own journey with finding Allah and getting closer to Allah and who He is. So I think letting your children do that, coming to terms with their own Islam, re reteaching themselves Islam and not necessarily being like, oh, you don't know that, I tell you that before this, but having patience with them when they're relearning, when they have an interest or an interest to speak in Islam, don't put them away by being negative about things that they might not know, something that you think that they should know. So I think that that's incredibly helpful when talking about the level of that, especially if they're surrounded by so many other options. I taught in a high school these past 4 months, and it was very relaxing thinking about what's out there. And it's scary. And I tell the kids that all the time. I taught freshmen in high school. I was like, you guys are very scary. They're like, Miss A, you calling us scary? I'm like, yeah, they're scary. But I will say all of my Muslim students, I had a lot of faith in them, and all of their non-Muslim friends knew a lot about Islam. So I think that there also tends to be this negative discourse when it comes to the youth, but I think that we should have a lot more hope in them because I think that they're doing a great job. When I had to cook off work for Eid, a lot of my non-Muslim students knew that I was gone for Eid because of their Muslim friends. It's not necessarily that all these kids are assimilating to their non-Muslim friends. Some of them, all the time, talk to their non-Muslim friends about Islam. Some of the non-Muslim friends are using words like inshallah and mashallah. All right, they know about Palestine. They know about what's happening in Sudan. They know all these things. The youth, they're scary sometimes, but I think that we should have a lot more hope with them. What we do right now.
Thank you so much, Jazakumullah khairan. In addition to that, we need to engage our youth more. I'm sure the Samad, uh, Brother Rocky, Fawaz, even Sister Aisha, they will have a different perspective, being part of the panelists for today. So we need to engage our youth more, and I'm sure we'll see more of Brother Rocky here and Brother Inshallah Good and Brother Samad. We'll see more of you, Inshallah. We'll see Fawaz every time, Inshallah. Allah will make it easy. Um, Sheikh, I have one question here, but before the question, I want to be sure that we've received all the questions from the audience. Sisters, mothers, do you still have questions? No questions. Brothers, questions? No, doctor. Comment. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I really want to thank the organizer for bringing something like this up. I think it's very important that we should be doing more of this, especially in summer when, you know, uh, those high schools, middle schools, and even those in colleges will be home so that we can have more of this. Uh, I think it's one of the challenges that we face in this community, especially having to have our youth, come up and take over some of the programs that we do. And from what I've been listening, I think that gap exists. And if we don't do things of this nature, we don't know how to address some of these gaps. So, and I like the way of it made mention of something that we need to understand the dynamic of change itself. Things change, and we have to also change with all those, indications. Because if, like, we are talking about social media, and I know some of us now, even kids in middle school, practically everybody has a phone now. But it depends on what you do with the phone. We are on different, social media, Facebook, Twitter, name it. And it depends on which area you go to shop. I just made mention of Orion. I was like, not that I'm a fan of him, but when I was just talking to somebody, when people say, I'm going to see Mike, I was asking, what does that even mean? I know people say that a lot now, but I don't know. But I know, especially when people have concerns in Nigeria and they want to be heard. They will go to this guy and they will go lodge their complaints, and people will try to broadcast it. If somebody is in need of help, people will come around and offer such help. So, and of course, there are several ways, and we have to look at our social media as something that is like a knife. Knife has its own benefits. Likewise, it can be for something beneficial to you. At the same time, it will hurt you if you use knife to cut your finger or to stab somebody. So the same thing we look at the social media. The same way a doctor will give you a medication, like, oh, take this medication, it's going to work for your headache, but you see, it might have some side effect as well. That is the way we should look at social media. And that is the same perspective we should be telling our kids that use your time well. If you have, a whole Quran being downloaded to your phone and you read Quran, you go through the tafsir, it is not social media. You are using your time well, benefiting from it. Unlike, you just get there, you get something into your ears, and it is hip up from morning till evening. What are you doing? So that is the way we should always look at it. That's one. The communication is another thing I want us to look at very, very, deeply. When we stand before Allah, we communicate to Allah. It is something that has to do with two individuals. By the time somebody is talking to himself in medical line, it is a disease. We will say, you have to look at this guy. It's just talking to himself or to ourselves. So, but when somebody is communicating, then we look at what is he talking about. So the way this our youth talked about today, I think we as adults we have to start looking at the way we can communicate very well in a way that will bring something best out of them. Àwọn bàbá wa ìyá wa sọ pé pẹ̀lẹ́ ó lábọ̀ ó lábọ̀. If what I mean by that is the way I say something, I could say it in a way that will be very friendly, and I could say the same thing in a way that will really bring the force out of somebody. If I don't like this guy and I want to say "Salam alaikum," I could do that. But people will say, look at the way he does with that guy. But say, "Salam alaikum, brother," with a cheerful smile, and that is Islam. So the way we communicate matters a lot. And I know our youth, what they want us to get from this is the way we communicate with them, the way we, interact with them, it goes a long way. Fawaz, I like the way you brought up that example. Fawaz is my good boy. We do play soccer together every Saturday. And I know these guys, if I will say something that he would have loved to say again. They are always very mad when they don't have to play soccer more, to have more time to play soccer with us, especially out on the field. I say, àwọn ẹ̀gbọ́n yóò tiẹ̀ fún one chance láti play ball. And I know that is similar to her. Ó ṣe jẹ́ pé àwọn ọmọ kékeré ẹ̀ máa máa sọ pé ẹran tó kọ́ fọmọ ẹ̀ ti tóbi jù. So these guys are growing, but we don't realize. That is what he's saying. For hours of 5 years is not for hours of today. Àwọn ọmọ yìí grow lábẹ́ wọn wá àmọ́ kàn ti dàgbà. That is what they are saying. Our youth are growing. I mean, Abdul Samad, I know you remember me very well with your brother. When they were coming to TTY 15 years ago, may Allah continue to have mercy on their dad, they were little. But if I say Abdul Samad now, I won't say Abdul Samad or Motimo 15 years ago. I'm not but we don't realize that under our noses, they are already adults. They are almost adults, under our noses. And that is what they want us to get at. The way we communicate with them, the way we interact with them, the way we share the common space that brings us together, we need to give that respect to them. And respect is reciprocal. I'm not sure respect for one. I want to learn. They will know how to show respect to somebody who is old enough to be their parent. But I will show respect. No, that is not okay. After all, I want to be to know why can't I share one time? So I don't along. We need to do this more often. And you guys, please, we don't have to be chasing you over social media stuff, but just time well. Know that whenever you do, Allah sees you. Even if you don't see him, he sees us at every point in time in our lives. We might continue to go with us.
Jazakumullah khairan. How time flies. It's almost time for Zuhr. And ye- okay, I'll give you 1 minute. Just 1 minute. 1 minute. Then I like that 1 minute. Now.
Okay, so in order to put our words in perspective, I wanted to give this suggestion that I have down that when we are in mentorship program, we create diverse team. A diverse team meaning that we mix different generations, and this is going to promote knowledge sharing. It's going to promote social understanding. It can lead to more innovative, solutions, issues that we might be facing, and it leads to better team dynamics. One example is when we do our summer programs. One of them in which I'm involved, the grandparent convention. So in that team, they put the dynamic of different generations, not just the grandparents. They put the younger ones. They put the older grandparents. They even put the ones who are not grandparents yet, so that we all share our different ideas and then we come up with a good program. So any program we are doing in the message, let's think of diverse team so that we can have every generation that we need in the message.
Jazakumullah khair. No, thank you so much. Just 1 minute. Oh, mashallah. Jazakumullah khair. No. No. Astaghfirullah. No. No. Inshallah. No. No, exactly. Thank you so much, man. We had an enlightening discussion today about the communication gap between the youth and the adults. We pray that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will help us. Yeah. Oh, that's about it. Like I said, yeah. Now, so I want to thank our panelists for taking time to be here, for all the great insights, the strategies, the solutions that you have provided. May Allah continue to increase your knowledge. May Allah continue to bless you, our Sheikh. Thanks for coming. Thanks for extending your stay. You know, may Allah bless you. May Allah grant you the reward. And to the audience, we are much appreciative of your time. Thanks for contributing. Thanks for making it a wonderful session. Pray that Allah will make it impactful in our lives, and pray that Allah will make it easy for us. Please don't go yet. We have information. We have announcement. It's very important announcement about it. Dr. Abdul Rashid has announcement, please.
Assalamu alaikum. So, inshallah, as we all know, today is the third day of Dhul Hijjah. So, we still have a couple of more days to go before Eid. So, we just want to remind us, inshallah, come Saturday, we encourage, that's the day of Arafah. And we put all of our Ujjah to travel, those who are still traveling. May Almighty Allah, grant them safe travel. May Allah accept all the ibadah and make the Hajj Mabrur. So, inshallah, Saturday, we advise everybody to fast because that's the day of Arafah. And inshallah, here we're going to be having iftar at Masjid on Saturday. And one of the reasons why we're doing this is we want to set up the Masjid, we want to set up the hall for Eid because inshallah, Eid is going to be on Sunday. Sallu ala Nabi al-Kareem. Ajay Mami, woman. So Eid is going to be on Sunday, but we encourage them to come around on Saturday so that we break our fast, we can do iftar together, and afterwards we're going to set up the all for Eid. We're going to set up the masjid for Eid. That is number one. Then number two, Eid is going to be on Sunday. Sallu ala Nabi al-Kareem. So we are planning to have two prayers, inshallah. The first prayer is going to be at 8 o'clock. So